Welcome to the first FPL deadline stream of this season, and this marks the 23rd piece of content for Fantasy Premier League over the summer. The game launched around 3 weeks ago, maybe close to a month by this point, and I've covered absolutely everything there is in terms of the best budget players, differentials, premiums, captaincy options, fixtures, you name it. I've even talked about summer signings, players from newly promoted clubs. All of those videos are out on my channel. The same goes to my chip strategy, multiple drafts covering different structures, and now it's all about locking in our final teams for the Gameweek 1 deadline, which is at 6:30 p.m. in the UK. You've got the timer just below my big ugly mug, and it's good to see some new faces and also some familiar ones in the live chat. A big shout out to Anish, who has been a member for 5 months. I do appreciate it. Cheers, Dylan. Great to be back. Yes, it definitely is. And I've been on holiday for a few weeks and I've still been making content, but it was a nice time to recharge the batteries and fully focus on Fantasy Premier League. And actually, UCL Fantasy has launched already. I think it was yesterday, and very soon I'll be building a first draft and talking about the Champions League as well. I covered the Club World Cup throughout the summer, so there is no rest for the wicked, and this season is no different. Jaron has the first question, and it's about FPL Draft, which I don't play, to be honest. And he says, hey, I play Draft, so DEFCON doesn't count. This week, do I play Enzo or Martinelli? I'd go for Enzo Fernandez there. And do I play Saliba or Dan Burn? I don't think Arsenal nor Newcastle will keep a clean sheet, but I think Arsenal are more likely, so I'd go for Saliba in terms of that conundrum. Good luck for the season. Best on YouTube. Thank you very much, and all the best to you as well in FPL and just in general. Cilindra, welcome. Good to see you. Hey, Dylan, thoughts on my team? Dubravka, Milenkovic, Borro, Dorgu, Gakpo, Palmer, Wirtz, Haaland, Watkins. I'm unsure on 4 players, which are Diouf, Dewsbury Hall, I almost said Kevin De Bruyne there, Reinders, Strand Larsen, and currently got 0.5 million in the bank. I actually don't mind having a bit of money in the bank. Usually you want to use up all of it, but I think that could be quite handy for future transfers and swinging from one premium to another, like Palmer and Saka, for example. And it also really helps with different chip strategies as well. But I think with your squad, I like the look of most of those players. Dubravka should play against Tottenham Hotspur. He no longer has a yellow flag. I'm not a massive fan of Dorgu, but at 4.5 million long term, that could be a decent pick. But for the first 6-7 games, you'd probably want to avoid Man United defensively. Milenkovic is a good shout. He's a bit underrated at the moment, but Murillo is better for defensive contributions. Milenkovic will likely get more goal contributions, but I think Murillo has a few goals in him, which we haven't really seen in the past couple of years. I think that kind of attacking line you've got is really solid, despite the fact you've got no Mohamed Salah there. Ollie Watkins, the most informed of them all. Erling Haaland, we all know what he is, and he's a great captaincy option for Gameweek 1. I think he's the only one that can really rival Salah in terms of a reliable asset with that high ceiling. But Cole Palmer is in there too. So I do like all of those picks, but I would question the Dorgu one. And I have to say, Borro looks really enticing. Against Paris Saint-Germain, he got an assist from a set piece. And with James Maddison injured, Borro's only going to get more of those free kicks and corners. And he also can get defensive contribution points, which I think he's quite underrated at. So I like the players you've got. The players you're unsure of, I completely get that. With Dewsbury Hall, for example, I'm not really too keen on him if I also go for Ndai. Having 2 Everton midfielders, even if I'm only starting one of them, does seem a little bit too much. But I do like what you're going for there. And Strand Larsen, even though he faces City at home in Gameweek 1, he has scored against them before. And I think he's a solid pick in general, even though Wolves aren't looking too good right now. Diouf over Wan-Bissaka is interesting, but yeah, I think Diouf has that nice low ownership we all pretty much want in Gameweek 1. And yeah, Dewsbury Hall at 5 million is a decent option, even with the arrival of Jack Grealish. But yeah, you know my thoughts on it. I also covered, multiple teams actually in a Rating Your Teams podcast, and some people had a similar structure to what you're talking about. If I were to take out any of those 4, who could I replace them with? Well, Strand Larsen is arguably the best of the 6.5 million forwards and below. I would not recommend Biru, despite his good preseason form, because Calvert-Lewin is signed for Leeds United. And ultimately, if I'm not going for Haaland or one of those reliable options like Watkins, Gyökeres, Joao Pedro, and Jared Bowen, I'd be tempted to just go for Mark Guiu as a cheap enabler and then start 7 attackers, 5 midfielders, and 2 forwards every single week, and maybe occasionally go for a back 4. So, yeah, I think it's a difficult one. It might be Dewsbury Hall from the players you're saying there, even though at 4.5 million, you could definitely have good replacements for Diouf, like Wan-Bissaka, Mickey van de Ven, who might not even start in Gameweek 1. That's something else to really think about. But if I had to kind of pinpoint one player to be changed, it would be Dewsbury Hall, and you can go to Reinders or Elliot Anderson. Good to see you, Anish, and thank you for the super chat, the first one of the stream. And our goal is to get to 10 in the next 2 to 3 hours, which is probably the duration of this deadline stream. So, Sells, Romero, Borro, Milenkovic, Salah, Palmer, Paqueta, Reinders, Bruno Fernandes, Watkins, Mateta, and a bench of Dubravka, Dorgu, Estev, and yeah, well, okay, I didn't know the last part. Maybe I'm just being stupid, but the double up in Spurs defense, I get it. Gameweek 1 against Burnley, they're top of the clean sheet odds, which I'll go through one more time, but I think Borro's enough. I'd rather go for Nico Williams, even though you've got Milenkovic there already. So something you could do, for example, is go from Romero to a 4.5 million defender, like Wan-Bissaka, just one example there, and then use that extra 0.5 million on Paqueta up to, let's say, Ndai, for example. But I do like what you've got going. Salah and Palm, of course, and you've got Bruno Fernandes. That's a really nice midfield, and I do like Reinders. My only concern is that with Rodri's injury, there might be occasions where Reinders plays a deeper role if Gonzalez isn't in the team. So ideally for Reinders owners, you'd want Gonzalez in the holding midfield role, so Reinders has that license to bomb forward, and he scored that brace, of course, in the recent preseason friendly. Mateta's an interesting choice, and I think he's also a bit underrated. Ollie Watkins is popular for a reason. And you've got a decent bench. I think Dorgu, despite my reservations about him for the first 6 game weeks, I think long-term he might be a decent pickup. He got, obviously, 2 goals against Bournemouth in a recent preseason friendly. Estev is a defensive contribution machine, it seems. My only concern, of course, is having Dubravka and Estev, which is why I've currently got Reinildo Mandava in my setup. But yeah, overall, not many complaints from me. But I think the double up in the Spurs defense is a little bit questionable, especially when you've also doubled up on Forest defensively. I'd rather spread out the risk a little bit when it comes to the clean sheets, defensive contributions, and attacking potential from the defenders. That's just the way I see it, though. I think that is the main area I'd focus on changing. But Sells himself is a really good pick in goal, of course. Welcome, Awali. Good to see you. Mark says, hi Dylan, best Wolves defender to rotate with Spurs. Well, you might be interested in Hoover, who's a 4 million defender who started a lot of games in pre-season, so he's got a decent chance of starting at right wing back. The other options all cost 4.5 million. That includes their new signing Wolf, who has finally been added to the game after, 11, 12 days of him not being, a feature in FPL, despite signing for Wolves in early August. But yeah, I think it's probably Hoover for the price point, really. Yes, Poochie Head, new season we go again. That is the way to go. Welcome to, I don't want to butcher your name, even though I've just been in Greece. I don't know if I can pronounce that. But Dylan, my strategy is to bench boost in Gameweek 1, free hit in Gameweek 2, wildcard in Gameweek 3 or 4. Give us the best squad for the bench boost in the first Gameweek, playing all the players. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think that's where Wan-Bissaka would be appealing. I don't recommend Areola because there is a chance Hermansen starts from the get-go, and over time that will be an option or a problem for you at 4.5 million. So I think one of Wan-Bissaka or Diop would be decent choices in that defensive line. I don't even mind Konsa so much against Newcastle, but I'm backing a high-scoring game there. So ideally, you would go for Borro or, if necessary, a cheaper Tottenham defender, which could be Jed Spence, Romero, or Van de Ven. But it wouldn't surprise me to see Danso start instead of Van de Ven against Burnley, because we know the Dutchman has a lot of injury problems over the years, and this might be a good time to give him a so-called rest, so to speak. So yeah, I think those options would be enticing. I'd say Borro if you could do that. Nico Williams at 5 million would be a good option for the bench boost. One of Robert Sanchez or Sells, to be fair, would be fairly good. As your backup goalkeeper, I'd say Perry at home to Everton. That could be a decent shout. Now, obviously, if you are going for Ndai, you don't want that sort of clash. But yeah, I think Perry might be the most enticing backup goalkeeper for Gameweek 1 if you're looking to bench boost. I'd say one of Salah or Palmer, maybe even both, depending on your budget and what you're kind of going for with the structure. I would go for Ollie Watkins, but you've also got the likes of Joao Pedro, Bowen. Yeah, I think you can easily pick 2 of those 3 at least. Maybe even decide to go for Erling Haaland and drop one of Salah or Palmer. I would go for a second Liverpool attacker. Maybe in terms of budget, it would be best to go for Gakpo. It saves you $1 million. You go for a differential. So that could also work in your favour. I don't mind a Liverpool premium defender like Frimpong, who I currently have in my setup. But yeah, those are the players I'd really be looking at. And then one of Elliot Anderson or Reinders would be very solid at 5.5 million. I'm not as keen on Dewsbury Hall. I think he's a good option on set pieces, but I would favour those two. And if you are backing Everton to win and score goals, then you could also go for Ndai and maybe drop the Perry pick and maybe stick with a Bruggen as your 4-point family and goalkeeper. So those are some ideas there for you in terms of your bench boost. Maybe later I will use the website fpl.team to build that sort of bench boost squad for Game Week 1 so you can visualize it as well. And there might be a few other picks that come to mind there. No Man City players. Well, I am considering Reinders in for Anderson. That's something I've interchanged over the last couple of days. And if you watch my team selection, there are a few changes from that in this team, but this is more akin to the squad I showed at the end using the website fpl.team because it allows me to go for Salah and Palmer simultaneously. But there are some sacrifices in terms of budget. And what I'm trying to do now in the next couple of hours before we lock in is to get Pedro Porro instead of Mickey van der Ven. Thank you, the GOAT. I appreciate the kind words. Ndai or Sarr for 6.5 million. My current preference is Ndai. He's also on penalties, but there is the possibility that when Jack Grealish starts games, which is probably from Game Week 2 or 3 onwards, we could see Ndai shifted to the right, and I think he's less appealing as an FPL asset from that perspective. But I also pointed out the combination those two could have. Maybe Grealish plays as the attacking midfielder, Ndai on the left, and they interchange. That's what I'd want to see for Ndai going forwards, and that would make him really appealing as an FPL asset. But it is an unknown with the signing of Jack Grealish, but I would lean towards Ndai in that 6.5 million dilemma. Esteve or Biol, and why? Well, I would go for Esteve at the moment because, well, Biol is suspended in Game Week 1, and then when he's back from suspension, he's facing Arsenal away, and the fixtures aren't great for either team, to be quite honest with you, but with Esteve, you do have Sunderland in Game Week 2, so that would be quite appealing. To start this season, I'd rather go for Esteve, and from a defensive contributions perspective, I think both of them might be neck and neck. The same goes for Rodon if he can start consistently, which I believe he will, based on what Leeds fans have told me, but I think Esteve is the preference here. The Foutier says, who is better? Or which is better? Sells, Bruno, Tosin Adarabioyo, Van der Ven, or Sanchez, Rodgers, Porro, and Murillo? I'm going to go for the second quartet, even though Bruno Fernandes is a really good pick. And I think Tosin will start in Game Week 1. But I think moving forwards, Tosin will be a massive rotation risk. And with the second quartet, you've got two solid options when it comes to defensive contributions in Porro and Murillo. And I also think Porro has so much attacking potential, as we saw in the UEFA Super Cup final. Robert Sanchez and Sells is a difficult one. There's not much in it. I think in isolation, Sells is better with the ceiling and stuff like that. But at the same time, you can cover Forest defensively with any one of their defenders, even Aina, although he'd be at the bottom of the list. I think Nico Williams, Murillo, and Milenkovic are all great choices. And of course, you've got him in the second option. So I'd go for that. The only concern here, of course, is Rodgers, but he was in training, and I think he'll start against Newcastle. Yeah, I'm not sure why that's the case, actually, in terms of... 1 second. The message is not showing up. It just always happens. I had it all working and stuff, and yeah, just going to have to redo it again. Hopefully it works now. But yeah, thank you for bringing it to my attention, Richard Milichip. And you are the first highlight comment of the stream, I guess, even though technically you weren't, but YouTube does YouTube things. So I'll just highlight the Anish message, a member for 5 months again. I do appreciate that. And also the super chat, which I greatly appreciate, by Anish, which was covered earlier, but this will make it even easier for those watching to keep track of where I am in terms of the live chat. And I'm going to answer as many questions as possible. And stay patient. Your questions will be answered eventually. And as the pinned comment says, any repeat questions may be skipped. So hopefully you do understand that. Baraf says, my team sells Cucurella, Aït-Nouri, Van der Ven, Richard, Salah, Marlon, Palmer, Cunha, Ndai, Watkins, Mateta. I like the look of it, but I'm less keen on Marlon, and I'm not even sure if he starts actually in Game Week 1. I think we could see Rodgers on the left, or in a central position, McGinn on the left, and there's also the possibility of Tielemans playing a bit further forward, so Anana will partner Kamara, and in that case I think Rodgers gets shifted to the right. So I'm not so sure about Marlon. His minutes will be a huge concern, I think, moving forwards. The Rice 2-week punt, gonna go crazy, always returns against Man United nowadays. Well yeah, sorry, Jesus, my bloody voice, no stamina there. He scored his first goal for Arsenal, that famous winner, of course, in the 3-1 win at the Emirates, and last season scored a brilliant goal at Old Trafford to make it 1-1, so yeah, that is a decent shout, and you can also get defensive contribution points too. Warbreak already. We are finito. Stinker and hooked, as they say. Easy says, I have 2 teams in 2 different accounts. Be careful about saying that, mate, because FPL, I heard, are a bit stingy about that. It isn't their rules. Both teams have different players. I want to do something different. Well, fair enough. I mean, I think one team is already bad enough, let alone two. And if you're also playing UCL Fantasy, then yeah, there's a lot of tinkering and micromanagement to really get hold of this season. Marlon and Ndai or Rogers, Dewsbury Hall. Difficult one. I think long term I'd go for Rogers and Dewsbury Hall. Hi Dylan, who is the best 4-point family midfielder? Probably Josh King from Fulham. I think he'll start, and he's been very impressive in pre-season. Fulham fans have waxed lyrical about him. He's 18 years old and he's got potential, so it's probably King. He's the most exciting of the lot, and I think he'll get plenty of game time, sometimes off the bench, but also a few starts here and there. Maybe he'll even establish himself as the main attacking midfielder for Fulham this season. Ndai, Matoma and Fulkrug, or Evanilson, Matoma and Paqueta? Yeah, so I would probably say... It's a really good one. Ndai, Matoma and Fulkrug is my preference. Valentino says, nice team similar to me, but Douglas Luiz is close to Nottingham Forest. That could be a problem. I still think Elliot Anderson will start consistently. If anything, Douglas Luiz would take Sangari's spot, but maybe Forest fans would question that logic in the live chat. But yeah, as I said before, Anderson could easily become Reinders. My main concern at the moment is kind of stretching Van der Ven to Borro. That's what I want to do at the moment. I'm really keen on Borro with the defensive contributions and also the goals, assists, bonus points, etc. But yeah, there's a few things to kind of fine-tune before the deadline. And of course, there have been some changes from the team selection yesterday. Not many, but it was all covered in that podcast anyway, because this team is basically identical to what I showed at the end. Elanga or Rogers? Yeah, it's going to be Rogers for me, despite the yellow flag. I think he'll start. Thank you, Andrew. As he says, drop a like. It costs nothing and really helps us out in the algorithm. And let's try to get to 35,000 subscribers in the next couple of months. I know it typically is the busiest part of the season with UCL Fantasy and FPL, and there's a lot of reception to those videos and live streams. So I do hope to have you on board this season, and it would be a pleasure to do so. So Easy puts his first team, and I'm guessing, yeah, you put your second team as well. Kind of looking at both of them, I'd prefer the first one. I do prefer the first team, even though Watkins and Haaland is a nice forward line, Mateta as well for the second squad. But yeah, I'm going to stick with the first one there, Easy. I think that is the best team for you. Dr. K34 puts his squad as well. So a lot of rating of teams, it seems, for this video. Any changes or recommendations? Well, Van der Ven is a slight concern of mine. I know he's in my current squad now, but I'm quite keen on changing him. And as I mentioned before, I'm not surprised, or I wouldn't be surprised if he was benched against Burnley, which is the fixture you really want him for. Yeah, good goalkeepers. I think that's absolutely fine. I like the defensive line. Maybe Van der Ven is questionable. And yeah, apart from that, I really like the look of your team, to be fair. Watkins, Bowen. I'm just wondering who's on your bench in this case. Or maybe you've mentioned everyone. No, there is a forward you haven't talked about. Probably Mark Guillou, I guess. So yeah, Easy, your question has been answered. Let me know what you think. But yeah, that's the way I would lean at the moment. Sarr or Eze? Well, Eze is linked with Tottenham Hotspur and Arsenal. I'd go for Sarr at the moment. You save $1 million, and I just think with Eze, there is a bit of uncertainty about his future. Do I like Xhaka? Not so much. For his Arsenal career, he only broke the 100-point barrier once, and that's because he played a more offensive role as a box-to-box where Arteta and Arsenal finally got the best out of him. But with Sunderland, he can play there at times, but I think he could also play in a deeper role depending on the opposition. And we could see Lafy, for example, play in the midfield, and he'd be the more attacking player in that position. I don't think Xhaka is a terrible option. At $5 million, you can't really go wrong there, but I think there are better choices like Dewsbury Hall. And if you stretch just 0.5 million more, I think Reinders and Anderson are the absolute standouts there. Is Bruno worth it? I think so. He's on penalties. Defensive contributions is something he actually provides quite consistently. Of course, the goals and the assists is a given with Bruno Fernandes. Maybe he hasn't reached the same heights as he first did when he first joined Man United, but yeah, he's a good option, of course, and he'd be my preference over Cunha and Mbeumo right now. Is Dalot an option? Not for me. I think Diallo will be the preferred right wing back for Man United, but Dalot will get game time and plenty of starts. I think over the last couple of years, he has been Man United's best defender in FPL. But yeah, I wouldn't go for him this season, I think. Not to start with anyway. I really want to have at least one Newcastle player. It's my first time playing FPL. Any recommendations, says David. Well, Anthony Gordon is yellow flag, but I think he will start up front against Aston Villa. Lang is an interesting one. I think he will be the main right winger for Newcastle, but I think Jacob Murphy might start in this game. So it's a difficult one to say. Bruno Guimaraes is underrated because of defensive contributions, which is a new system this season, and he can also get goals and assists from time to time, but it's difficult to really be bullish on Newcastle right now. I think from Game Week 3 onwards, I'd definitely recommend it with some of their fixtures, and if people wildcard early, and even around Game Week 13, I think Newcastle are really helpful when it comes to those specific windows for wildcarding. If I had to pick one player, it's probably going to be Gordon, but he is yellow flagged and he has picked up a lot of these injury problems and doubts over the years. I use 2 different phones. One is my broken phone, one the phone that my family is given. Fair enough. I mean, maybe that is very similar to the... Yeah, I mean, as you say, that's why you have 2 teams. Fair enough. But yeah, I think one for me is enough, to be honest. Cucurella versus Frimpong. Difficult one. I'm covering Chelsea defensively with Robert Sanchez. Long term, I think Cucurella is the better pick, to be fair. But I do like Frimpong with his short-term potential whilst Bradley is out injured. And in Game Week 1 against Bournemouth tonight, I'm really bullish on Frimpong. I think he's probably the best Liverpool defender to start with, but admittedly, he might be a little too short-term for that 6 million price tag for a defender. Rodgers and Wirtz versus Bruno and Ndai, says Bandido. That is a really good one. My preference would be Rodgers and Wirtz. Cucurella and Verbruggen or Porro and Sanchez. It would be Porro and Sanchez, yeah. Richard Minichip says, which combo do you prefer for my starting 11 every week? Williams and Dewsbury Hall or Van der Ven and Arias? It'd be Williams and Dewsbury Hall. You can get to Porro by getting Sells instead of Sanchez and downgrading Murillo to someone else worth 4.5 million. That is true. That is true. It's something I have considered. And I think ultimately I will get Pedro Porro by the end of this deadline stream. But I appreciate the suggestion. There are many different ways of going about it. For example, I could do Wirtz to Gakpo, and that already makes it much simpler. And I don't actually mind going for Gakpo for several reasons I'll discuss soon. Alan Madrid says, hey Dylan, long season to go, mate. Yes, so that's why I can't afford to have my voice cracking that early on. Is Keller going to be starting in Game Week 1? He is a doubt, just like Kevin Schade for Brentford, but I think he will. I'll cover the predicted lineups one more time. There are a few updates, very small ones, compared to the lineups video that I posted yesterday, so stay tuned for that. Manager from Malaysia here. What's up, Dylan? Good to see you, Najmi. There's a lot of people from Malaysia who watch my videos, which is great to see. I think Easy is one of them, actually. Easy99, a Chelsea fan, for his sins. Peter Goose says, Van der Ven, Nico Williams, Rodgers, no longer yellow flagged, or Porro, Murillo, and Anderson. Either option will start most of the games for me, so rotation doesn't matter. Yeah, good question. I like both trios, but I would go for Porro, Murillo, and Anderson. I just really like those 2 defenders you've got there. Yeah, I like Gakpo as well. Also in pre-season, he has been the most in form, and I did cover all the stats, you know, the most informed players, or the goals and the assists, and all the friendly results and finals, Community Shield, and UEFA Super Cup in that video yesterday. But yeah, I do like Gakpo. He will be highlighted soon. Anderson rumours concerning you. I mean, with Anderson, to be honest, he's one of those players I'm quite keen on maybe moving him on to Rangers. I'm going to show you a few changes in the next couple of minutes, to the next couple of hours as well. But yeah, Anderson, I think, will still start consistently for Forest. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that, and Douglas always takes a spot. So that's something I need to check again, to be fair. What I am concerned about with Forest is Nuno's comments saying that they're far from ready and that he's really concerned. So having 2 Forest players is not ideal. I'm still quite keen on Sells, Nico Williams, Murillo, Milenkovic, but on the rest, even Chris Wood, I'm happy to avoid them for now. And also, welcome to you. Would you change anyone? Virgil, Pedro Porro, Diouf, Williams, Esteve? Yeah, I like that. I mean, if you've got a bit of money, Williams to Murillo is ideal, but Williams is absolutely fine, to be fair. And it also depends on the rest of your squad. So if you feel your midfield is a little bit weak, you might need to take some money out from your defensive line to make those midfield upgrades. Hey mate, I have Keane for an Everton defender. Yeah, Keane will start because Branthwaite is injured, and we even saw in the recent preseason friendly, when Branthwaite came off, it was for Michael Keane. He cost 4.5 million, so absolutely fine. short-term wise anyway, for the next 3-4 weeks anyway, that actually is a decent short-term punt. I'm not completely against that, but yeah, I think the likes of Konsa, Wan-Bissaka, even Van der Ven would be better long-term options. Thank you, Yassine. Love from Morocco, so thank you very much. And I think also Morocco are ranked quite highly in the viewership figures that I see. Thoughts on Marlon and Fulkrug? I think Marlon's a nice short-term punt, but the minutes are a big concern. He might not even start in Gameweek 1. Fulkrug is in form. Now, there is this debate about, could I cover West Ham with Fulkrug over Bowen? Now, there is a 2 million difference, and if that means you can get Palmer or one of those premiums, you know, like Haaland and Salah, that's absolutely fair enough. But otherwise, I'd highly recommend just going for Bowen. From those two, though, I would be more keen on Fulkrug at the moment. Okay, so Lager, in my Update Lineups podcast, I had Marmoush in there, but for some reason, maybe I'm wrong about it, I think Doku has a great chance of starting on the left, and then when you've also got Cherki in the mix, it's really difficult to predict that Marmoush starting. I'm happy to avoid him for now. The Man City players I'm most interested in are Nuri and Haaland, and also Reinders. Those three are the standouts for me. I think with Marmoush, he's going to get benched from time to time, and Wolves is difficult to see. I think in one lineup I had him in it, in the other one I didn't, and it's something I'm kind of debating on. Man City is the toughest one to predict for Gameweek 1, I think, with all their new signings and the Club World Cup factor. Then you'd say Spurs because of the UEFA Super Cup final 3 days ago, but yeah, I think Man City is just a different breed. Yeah, Arias long-term at 5.5 is interesting. Maybe he's the one to go for over Anderson, but Reinders is my favourite, I think. If I do stick with this 5-point family midfielder, I'm going to go for Reinders. Isak's ownership from 30% last week to 10% right now. Yeah, it's because he's being axed from the team, and Liverpool aren't going to sign him in time for Gameweek 1 or 2, really. So if Isak does feature in the Premier League this season, it will likely be in Gameweek 3, unless he makes amends with Newcastle and he trains and he is active with the squad again and he returns in Gameweek 2. But yeah, he's not an option for the opening Gameweek. Why is nobody picking Caicedo? Well, because with Chelsea, you've got Joao Pedro, Cole Palmer, Enzo Fernandez, Cucurella, Robert Sanchez. Yeah, I think those are the kind of best options. But Caicedo is a good ball recoverer, and he could be very similar to Anderson, for example, and you save $500,000. So it's not a terrible pick. I think Caicedo is finally an FPL option, which he never was before. But yeah, I think with Chelsea, you've got 2 or 3 other options. Welcome, John David. Good to see you. Thoughts on Saka? I still think he's very consistent and he will do fairly well over the first 6 game weeks, but compared to Palmer, Haaland and Salah, he'll pale in comparison in terms of the big returns, and the captaincy is something he will probably lack, with the exception of Game Week 2 against Leeds United at home. Do you choose defenders for clean sheets or ball recoveries or for goals? A kind of combination of all of them. That's why I'm looking to go for Borro over Van der Ven. But yeah, if you look at my setup right now, Murillo's there for defensive contributions, Frimpong is there for the attacking threat, and I think Borro offers a mix of both. Konsa's just the reliable 4-point family defender, and Reinildo or Estev, whoever it is, they're just formally enablers, but Estev is probably better in isolation, to be fair. Haaland or Palmer as my second premium. I'd lean towards Palmer just because of the price, and you could also have something like Palmer and Bowen maybe, instead of Haaland and a 6-point family in midfielder. I'm not saying that's definitely the case for you, but when I found I've been playing around with this Haaland versus Palmer debate, that's kind of what I ultimately comes down to for me, and I would rather have that sort of Palmer-Bowen combination. Estev and Reinders or Dorgu and Baleba? I'd go for Reinders and Estev there, mate. Baleba should stay at Brighton, that's what Hörsler said in the press conference today, and he's a very good player. I think Dorgu long-term is decent, but I would go for Estev and Reinders. So there's a lot of questions. Keep them coming. I will get to them eventually, I promise. But what I'm going to do now is go for some different screens and show different graphics, and this will give you even more information, and it will be concise. So I'm not just going to throw information at you. Oh, this happened on the 15th of July and BS like that. No, I've already done that in the other videos anyway. So let's start off with the FPL League, actually. So if I can get to that now. If you haven't joined already, the code is WFF0U7. There's a code in description and an auto-join link. The same goes for my FPL Challenge Squad, which I'll show you very soon. And when this deadline ends, we're still going to go on in terms of the live stream, especially if we hit our super chat goal. And I will be showing you my FPL challenge team as I look to tinker a little bit with that game as well. You'll also see the graphics in terms of the league code WFF0U7 in most of the screens throughout this video and across all my FPL content. So let's go to the FDR. Aston Villa are top for the first 8 game weeks. Tottenham Hotspur are second. Sunderland, Nottingham Forest and Man City complete the top 5. Leeds are quite high up in 6th. Then you've got Wolves in 7th. Bournemouth, Palace and Everton are in the top 10. But if you take a look at the bottom 5 teams, Brighton, Arsenal, Chelsea, Fulham, Man United. I'm actually quite surprised about Chelsea, to be honest. I'm not sure I agree with that, if I'm being completely frank. Over the first 6 game weeks, though, and this is how volatile BFDR can be, Chelsea, let me get this right. So Chelsea are actually really high up in 10th. They were first at one point a few weeks ago when I was doing the fixture analysis, but they have gone down a little bit in the first 6 game weeks, for example. I think they are still top, though, for the first 4. So short term, Chelsea are really appealing. No, in fact, they're still 9th. That's very surprising. So there have been a lot of changes with the fixture difficulty rating. And of course, Sunderland ranked very highly despite having that Crystal Palace away fixture. In terms of predicted points for Game Week 1, Salah is top with 8.6. He has the best record in opening fixtures in Premier League history. Palmer is second, and Haaland inevitably completes the podium. Wirtz, Watkins, Bruno Fernandes, Ekitike, can't even speak, Saka, Gakpo, Chris Wood are in the top 10. I don't agree with that Chris Wood one, but the others are fairly decent. I would also, yeah, I mean, to be fair, all the Liverpool players are covered. I think that's fair enough. You will see my top 10 captaincy list very soon, but that is also subject to change, and I do encourage you to leave your thoughts in terms of the best captains for Game Week 1. I also use the website Fantasy Football Hub to rate my own team. It's something I haven't really done from last season. And this squad, with Sanchez in goal, Porro, Frimpong, Nico Williams, Salah, Wirtz, Ndiaye and Kudus, with Watkins, Bowen and Joao Pedro, has a team rating of 92%, so that's overall. And for this game week specifically, it's 94%. The predicted points is 67.9. And on the bench, I would have Dubravka, Reinders, Reinildo Mandava, and Konsa. Now, that is one team I'm looking at, which I also talked about recently. But the alternative is to go for something like this, with Sanchez in goal still, Porro, Murillo, and Wan-Bissaka. But here I've got Salah and Palmer, and then I downgrade Bowen to Mark Guiu as my third forward. Wirtz, Ndiaye, and Reinders would be my starting 11. And on the bench is quite similar. Dubravka, Reinildo, Konsa, and Mark Guiu. Let me know in the live chat, which one do you prefer, Team A or Team B? And of course, this one contains Palmer, the other one doesn't. And Fantasy Football Hub do prefer this with a 97% team rating, and the game week rating is also identical at 96%. What I'm going to do now is also show some polls. So the best goalkeeper, according to you, is Robert Sanchez, but he's narrowly ahead of Matt Sells, who cost the exact same. We've also got Raya in third, and Jordan Pickford is last. I think that injury news of Branthwaite has put a lot of people off these Everton assets, which can be evidenced with this poll too, where Tarkowski is last compared to Milenkovic, who is in third, Murillo in second, and Pedro Porro is in top spot. We've also got a 6 million premium defender poll, and Cucurella is first, Van Dijk second, Frimpong third, and Gabriel, despite some tough fixtures, has decent voting figures, but of course he is last with only 13%. And one poll I put out several days ago was about leaving one of these premiums out, Haaland, Palmer, and Salah. And most of you have voted for Haaland, so you're removing him from your squads and opting for Salah and Palmer, or maybe just going for one of them. But yeah, Haaland's the one you're happy to go about the most, basically. Now, we did get an injury update about Morgan Rogers. He is confirmed fit for tomorrow. Injuries are Andres Garcia and Ross Barkley for Aston Villa. Emi Martinez is unavailable only for one game, with that red card he got against Man United back in Game Week 38 of last season. Now, let's compare the stats of two of the best options in FPL, Salah and Haaland, who also happen to be the most expensive players in the game, and their stats are incredible. Haaland, it's his worst season in the Premier League, and he's still got 22 goals in 31 games. He's an absolute machine, and both of them had over 100 shots, identical shots on target, despite Haaland playing a lot less minutes, to be honest. Shots in the box as well, really healthy, but Salah does lead in most of these metrics, especially when it comes to creativity, which comes as no surprise. 89 key passes and 28 big chances created. I mean, it was an all-timer season by Mohamed Salah. I'd be surprised if he does it again, but yeah, doubt Salah at your own peril, I guess, and that's why he's currently my Gameweek 1 captain. So I'm also going to go to the website fpl.team, and here you can see my current squad, which you saw in the original screen for FPL. So the expected points here is 61.9, and if we go to Gameweek 2 and some potential issues here, I could start Mark Guiu away to Burnley, but I'm not even sure he's going to start there. I think Mayenda would still keep that spot depending on what happens. Van der Ven would be last on my bench. I just don't see myself starting this season with Van der Ven. I think I'll stretch him to Pedro Porro, but I could start Reinildo Mandava away to Burnley instead of Konsa, which is certainly contentious. But I have to say, the more I think about it, I'm quite keen on replacing Anderson for Reinders, with Reinders at 5.5 million. That is my current play. FPL.team aren't a big fan of it because the expected points goes down by 1, but I think Reinders is the most exciting pick at 5.5 million. And last but not least, and I'll go back to FPL Challenge at the end, let me show you very quickly what my squad is, and I did talk about this in several videos. Perry is my goalkeeper facing Everton at home. Aït-Nouri away to his former club Wolves. Wirtz is my captain at home to Bournemouth. Kudus is facing Burnley, also at home. João Pedro, who has been brilliant for Chelsea so far, and Victor Gyökeres, who scored his first Arsenal goal against Athletic Bilbao. So basically, you might be saying, why do you have Perry in goal in FPL Challenge? Because this week it is called Instant Impact. So any summer signings will score double the number of points, and that's why I've gone all in on the summer signings, and Perry is one of them. So let's go back to my FPL team for now, and very shortly I'll be showing you the team selection graphics and also predicted points and stuff like that if you want to see it, and also the top 10 captains, heat maps, team weaknesses, you name it. So stay tuned for that. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and check all the links in the description. It goes a long way to boosting us up in the algorithm. And keep your eyes peeled for UCL Fantasy because the game has launched, and I'll be making content as usual for the Champions League. Hey Dylan, welcome back everyone in a new season of Emotional Elevators. Never heard that phrase before, emotional elevator, but I think that is a good way of putting it. And yeah, I have to say, I was kind of happy about the break we had from FPL, but I was still doing the Club World Cup anyway, like an idiot. Murillo or Milenkovic? I prefer Murillo. They're both really good options, though. I don't think Aina's better than Nico Williams. When it comes to defensive contributions, Nico Williams is ranked higher. And whilst Aina got decent attacking contributions last season, I think it was very unsustainable, and I talked about this a lot in the previous campaign. At one point, he had 2 goals from 2 shots on target. Like, he's not going to keep that up this season. I know it's not all about stats, and some players are better finishers than others, and Nico Williams rarely scores, but he got an assist in pre-season, and I also think Williams will rank quite highly for defensive contributions. Maybe Milenkovic will get more, but he also costs 0.5 million more, and Murillo will be the best from Forest in terms of that particular perspective. Bestie says option 1, Frimpong in Die. The second option is Rodgers and Pedro. Oh, Pedro Porro, that is. Option 3, Bruno to Rodgers, Nico to Murillo, Van der Ven to Porro. Which is the best? I'm tempted to say option 3. I do like Bruno Fernandes, but Man United's fixtures are tough, and while you could point towards last season, some of their best performances came against Arsenal, Liverpool, Man City, the top teams, I still think option 3 is the way to go. Should I play Bowen in Gameweek 1 and save 1 million for Gyökeres in Gameweek 2, or just start Gyökeres in Gameweek 1? Well, it's not just saving 1 million, it's also about saving a transfer. So if you do go for Bowen, and then you're going to just move him on to Gyökeres anyway, you are booking in a move when you could get suspensions, injuries, and stuff like that. And I'm not completely against it. You know, we're still finding things out, and I'd say after 4 to 6 game weeks, we'll start getting a feel for the best teams, also the best fixtures and stuff like that. But my recommendation is to go for Bowen and stick with him. Maybe what you could do is free hit in Game Week 2 and double or triple up on Arsenal and get Victor Gyökeres in that way. Thoughts on Adingra and Rota as my 2 midfielder differentials? Yeah, look, I'm not a huge fan of Adingra, and with Sunderland, the only player I'm looking at is Reinildo Mandava, but I'm more keen on Jorginho Rota because he can also play up front. He did so in a recent pre-season friendly for Brighton, and he can also play as the attacking midfielder, so he can coexist with Danny Welbeck and the rumours of O'Reilly leaving to Juventus potentially would also make Rota not nailed on, but it would boost his chances of starting regularly for Brighton and Hove Albion. And I think if Rota could be a regular starter, he'd be my favourite Brighton option in general, even over Mitoma. Saka or Gyökeres? That's tough. In isolation, I'm going to say Saka, because he can also get the assists from set pieces. He can create chances and score goals, even though really you're just going to get assists from the corners and free kicks. But yeah, Viktor Gyökeres, I do like the look of him. I think he's going to score in the next 2 game weeks, maybe even 2 or 3 goals in that time frame. I'm quite confident about him, but I think Saka is the more consistent option. And yeah, he looked really sharp against Athletic Bilbao. Both of them did, but I think Saka especially. So yeah, with Cherki, I did this in the Club World Cup with predicted lineups, and it was, yeah, quite an event. I think Cherki could start, but would it be Cherki, Marmoush, and Doku simultaneously? I don't think so. I think one of them drops out, and that is my big debate for the Man City predicted lineup. And as bad as some of these midfielders have been, I think Bernardo Silva and Gundogan could still start against Wolves, which a lot of City fans won't be happy about. But yeah, I think City fans would like to see Gonzalez in there, Rangers a bit further forward in the midfield, alongside one of Bernardo, I guess, and maybe Gundogan, and then having Doku, Marmoush, and then, yeah, Haaland up front. But I think a lot of people also want to see Cherki in the midfield or on the right-hand side. I'm more confident of Cherki starting, but it's still 50-50, I think. You'll see my updated lineups very soon. Tanish says Murillo, Rodgers, Reinders, Wirtz, or Nico Williams, Kudus, Dewsbury Hall, Saka. I'm going to go for the first quartet. So Murillo, Rodgers, Reinders, and Florian Wirtz. So before I go back to your questions, and that's what we're going to be doing for most of the stream, we've got 1 hour and 40 minutes left. Plenty of time to lock in our teams, but don't leave it for the last minute just in case this website crashes. It is possible in Gameweek 1, and the website has had crashes throughout its history. So what I'm going to do first is just show you the team selection graphics. You can also check out that video which was posted yesterday, and there are only a few changes from what I currently have compared to that team yesterday, and still a lot is up in the air. My main priority is to get Pedro Porro in that defensive line and displace Mickey van der Ven. I'm not looking to double up on Tottenham Hotspur. I think 1 is more than enough. So there is this sort of structure at the moment where I kind of displace Erling Haaland and I go for Jarrod Bowen, Joao Pedro, and Ollie Watkins as the front 3. And then in the midfield, I've got a choice. Do I go for Ndai or a 6-point fouling midfielder and then a cheaper option like Dewsbury Hall? Or could I even go for 2 5-point fouling midfielders? Now, in this current draft that you see here, I actually managed to squeeze in Ndai, Reinders, and Anderson all at the same time, but I would have some concerns about that. And I've also got Cucurella, Frimpong, Sells, and Goal, of course. And I've got Salah in there, Wirtz, but no Cole Palmer. That is the big sacrifice there. And no Erling Haaland. So technically, only 1 premium. The bench is pretty much standard stuff, as you can see. But I am considering a few changes here. So maybe Frimpong will stay in. And whilst I do like Sells, I am looking to cover Chelsea defensively with Robert Sanchez, displace Marc Cucurella, and there I can go for Murillo and potentially Pedro Porro in that defensive line. Then Anderson could be on the chopping block, but I think the other 4 midfielders are still very high up on my priority list, especially Salah, of course. And that front 3 is up there with the very best in the game. Only Erling Haaland is better, but he also costs almost double the price compared to some of them. So there is a reason why he's not in my current setup, but Erling Haaland is still a great option. With the captaincy, I think no matter who I go for, Salah is going to be number 1, Haaland second, and then Palmer in third when I'm ranking them as the best options. And Bowen is actually 4th. You're going to see that captaincy list in a little bit. You can see the prices as well, which I talked about yesterday. I'm not going to go through that now. And the expected points, which are all taken by Fantasy Football Hub. Some of these players are in the top 10 list, of course, from what I talked about earlier. So now let's do this analysis and show you my predictions in terms of the score lines. Now, some of them aren't locked in. I think Man United Arsenal is one I've kind of been bouncing between. I originally said 2-1 Arsenal, and I might go back to that. But Liverpool 3, Bournemouth 0, Aston Villa 3, Newcastle 2, Brighton 2, Fulham 2, Sunderland 1, West Ham 2, Tottenham Hotspur 2, Burnley 1, Wolves 0, Man City 2, Chelsea 1, Crystal Palace 0, Nottingham Forest 1, Brentford 1. I think Arsenal, that's something I might change, and maybe the delusional side of me will take over. But for now, I'm going to say 2-2, and then Leeds 1, Everton 1. But I also want to highlight a team's weakness. They are bottom of the clean sheet odds for Gameweek 1, and that's none other than the Cherries, Bournemouth, who have made a new signing in Diakate, who could even start at Anfield. But my highlighted player here is Cody Gakpo, even though, as you saw in the graphic, a lot of the chances Bournemouth concede are down the middle. But what you see in this graphic now on screen, the blue circles indicate the chances conceded by Bournemouth, and as you can see, most of them are in those central spaces. But Cody Gakpo's heat map is still very encouraging, and throughout pre-season, he has been brilliant, and I think he will create chances and score a goal against Bournemouth, so he could easily be in that top 10 captaincy list. But there's also Wirtz and Salah, and I wanted to diversify a little bit and not just have 3 or 4 Liverpool players from the get-go. But I think Gakpo is a great differential, and I'm not against starting with him in Gameweek 1. So Tottenham Hotspur are top of the clean sheet odds. I remember back in, Gameweek 37 and stuff like that of last season, they were like bottom of all Premier League teams. So it's a nice contrast there. They played very well against Paris Saint-Germain. They let it slip at the end. I can't even speak. I slipped my own sentence. But I think Spurs still showed promising signs under Thomas Frank, and they played a different formation. They surely won't play that, though, against Burnley, a back 5. City are 2nd, Chelsea 3rd, Liverpool 4th, and Arsenal are 5th. Brighton are in 6th, and as I mentioned before, Bournemouth are bottom with a 9% chance of keeping a clean sheet against Liverpool away. And now, the eagerly anticipated top 10 captains. I'm sure that's going to be a very popular question. Every single deadline, I'm going to be showing you this graphic, and it will change, of course, with the names. But I've currently got Bruno Fernandes in 10th, despite facing Arsenal at home. Bukayo Saka is 9th, Kudus is 8th, Watkins, Wirtz are just outside the top 5 because Joao Pedro is in 5th, Bowen is 4th, and the podium has Palmer, Haaland, and Mohamed Salah on top, as he usually is in FPL. So that's what I've gone for with the top 10 captains. But yeah, I think Cody Gakpo would be one to consider. Maybe he's more enticing than Bruno Fernandes and Saka, considering the fixture. But yeah, you could easily have 3 Liverpool players in this top 10 list, and I wouldn't really blame you, to be honest. But Gakpo was featured in the recent section, and I think that is more than enough right now. So what I'm going to do is go back to my team, and very shortly I'll be making some changes, I think, because like I said, I'm not a big fan of Mickey van der Ven. And also back to your questions, which is the most important thing. Keep them coming, like this video, all that good stuff. I do appreciate the support. Why not using Tosin as an entrance for the first game weeks of Chelsea? Because there's no guarantee that Tosin Adarabioyo will start all of the game weeks. I think he will against Crystal Palace at home in game week 1, but beyond that, yeah, I think Cucurella is just the way to go. For an extra 1.5 million, you get some defensive contributions, more goals and assists, regular starts. And with Robert Sanchez, I know Chelsea can change goalkeepers at times, which is a bit frustrating, but it typically doesn't happen in the Premier League. And Sanchez started 33 games last season. So yeah, with Tosin Adarabioyo, my prediction is that he'll get, 15, 20 Premier League starts. And even though Hato has been signed as sort of Cucurella coverage, I think he's a really good centre-back as well, and we could see him take Colwell's spot and start alongside Chalobah, and then you'd see rotation between Chalobah, Tosin Adarabioyo, and Badiashile, for example. Best 4.5 million forward? Yeah, it's probably Guiu. There's not really much else at that price point, to be fair. Marlon or Reinders? It would be Reinders. I'm not sure if Marlon starts, and very shortly I'll be showing you the predicted lineups, but yeah, for now I'll go through the questions here. I went Mateta, Watkins, and Gyökeres. That certainly is a little bit different. I know Gyökeres' ownership isn't exactly differential, but yeah, Mateta I do like the look of as well, despite some tough opening fixtures, and he showed what he could do against Liverpool. He's got 5 goals, I think, in pre-season, so a very good pick. Hi Dylan, Murillo and Dewsbury Hall, or Williams and Reinders. Good luck for the new season. Thank you very much. Both good duos, but I'm going to go for Williams and Reinders here. 3-1 Liverpool, the defence ain't that good. Well, I actually had 3-1 as my original prediction. I just think Bournemouth missing Kluivert and a few key players there. I think Liverpool will win comprehensively by 2 or 3, maybe even more. But yeah, 3-0, 3-1, that's kind of what I'm looking at as well. Yo, welcome back, Dylan. Good to see you back. Thank you very much. Black Viking, very nice name. Thank you very much. Cucurella and Nico Williams, or Pedro and Murillo? If that's Pedro Porro, I might actually go for that instead. Now, it depends on who your goalkeeper is, because, for example, if you've got Cucurella and Nico Williams, yeah, I'm just wondering who your goalkeeper is. Are you doubling up on Chelsea or Forest defensively? But I think what you might want to go for is Sanchez in goal, Pedro Porro, and Murillo. Will Newcastle be keeping Isak hostage until January, or the deal with Liverpool will settle before the end of the month? I mean, he is very well compensated. He's not exactly being tortured here. But I get that point. I mean, you could say the same thing about Gyökeres and a few other players who maybe had a gentleman's agreement with the club and then they went back on it. I think this is another example. But yeah, it just depends. I think if Newcastle get their striker signings in and Liverpool make an appropriate offer of, let's say, 140 million, I think Isak will go still. But we'll see that transfer happen towards the end of the transfer window. And then we'll see Isak feature in Gameweek 3 onwards. But yeah, I just don't really see him staying at Newcastle and rotting in the reserves. I don't see that happening personally. So if he does stay at Newcastle, then yeah, we'll see him reintegrated, I think, at some point. And maybe we'll have one more season, then they sell him. But yeah, it has been a very noisy saga, to say the least. And I still think he's going to go Liverpool, to be honest. I'm having Haaland, Salah. I think Wirtz is better value than him. Well, Wirtz is underpriced. And while Salah is really expensive, yeah, I mean, he's still the best option in the game, or top two. I mean, I don't see more than two players being better than him, even though you've got Palmer and Haaland there. Why did you take out Cucurella? Well, I've got Sanchez in goal, and it's a different way of structuring things. And like I said, this team is not locked in. Anderson, for example, could make way for Reinders again. And there's probably 3 or 4 players that are kind of 50-50, which I said in yesterday's team selection. But Cucurella's fine. I still like him a lot, but I can cover Chelsea defensively with Sanchez, who's $1 million cheaper, and then go for the likes of Frimpong, Murillo, and potentially Pedro Porro, who I'm very keen on. Van der Ven and Ndai, or Porro and Dewsbury Hall. As a duo, I'm going to say Van der Ven and Ndai, I think. I don't think Grealish will play this week, Diogo. No, I don't think so. Could he be on the bench? Possibly. I don't see him starting. Gakpo or Rodgers? Gakpo. Captain Haaland or Salah? It would be Salah. And you just saw the captaincy list a few minutes ago. Van der Ven or Spence? Long term, it would be Van der Ven. Once the dog is back in a month or two, I think Spence will be rotated. But then again, with Van der Ven, he's very injury prone and his minutes could be managed because of those injury problems. I don't think Ndai will be benched. If anything, I think he'll be shifted to the right, which isn't ideal. But we could also see Grealish as the 10, Ndai on the left, Dewsbury Hall playing deeper, which he has done for Leicester in the past, alongside one of Ghana or Idrissa Gana Gay. And then you've got Alcaraz or McNeil on the right. So I don't think Grealish coming into the team necessarily means Ndai goes to the bench. If anything, I just think it means there's a shift in some of the positions there, either for Dewsbury Hall or Ndai. Yeah, FK123 says, I went Haaland over Salah. Not a bad idea. I think Haaland is right up there. Why not Kudus? Well, you can't have them all, but also Kudus hasn't really done much in terms of goals or assists at Tottenham or for West Ham last year. So he's only got 1 assist in pre-season, if I'm not mistaken. Some decent performances here and there, but ultimately with FPL, with these midfielders and forwards, you want goal contributions, and Kudus is fine. I think against Burnley is a good option. He might still make his way into my team, but yeah, the ownership as well, the template sort of nature of him is putting me off a little bit, to be honest. How much better would you consider Bowen than Paqueta? Considerably better, even though in pre-season, they both have the same stats in terms of goals and assists. But yeah, Bowen for me is a great captaincy option. He's 4th in my list for Gameweek 1. And thank you, Lager, for moderating the chat too. Hopefully I've covered all the super chats. I'm just going to have a look. Oh yeah, so Paredes, thank you very much. Hey Dylan, welcome and good luck this season. Likewise to you. And of course, I've answered a question or two of yours already, but yeah, I just saw that comment now. Thank you very much. How much better would you consider Bowen? I just covered that, but the chat just, yeah, sorry. What do you think about Tosin Adarabioyo? Well, I covered him briefly a few minutes ago, and I think he'll start in Gameweek 1, but long term, he's going to be benched, and he's not going to get you 30 plus starts in the Premier League. And we could even see Hato start as a centre-back at some point, even though I think the main reasoning behind the signing is to provide coverage for Marc Cucurella at left-back. What do you think of changing Sanchez and Konsa to Trafford and Tosin? Yeah, I mean, I just think long term, both Trafford and Tosin could be rotation risks, especially if Man City sign Gianluigi Donnarumma, which is certainly looking possible. I'm going to have a look at this Ederson news because I actually haven't seen it. If something came up today, I haven't seen that. So give me a second whilst I have a look. I mean, Ederson is linked with several clubs at the moment. Oh yeah, here. Ederson will not be part of the Man City squad for this weekend, so Ederson didn't come to me and say, I want to leave or have an offer. Okay. But yeah, because I saw that quote by Guardiola, but I didn't see that he was out of the squad. So yeah, that is a... It looks like I was right originally about Trafford starting in Gameweek 1, but yeah, I just think long-term he's not going to really guarantee that sort of starting berth if Donnarumma comes in. So I'm going to go for the other duo instead. It's a good idea, though, what you're going for. It's certainly different, but yeah, I'm going to say Sanchez and Konsa, which is very boring. Pedro Porro or Ait Nouri? Yeah, Pedro Porro for me. Now, I think Ait Nouri will start in Gameweek 1, especially with Gvardiol missing out in the recent friendly, and there's no guarantee he even starts. I think Ait Nouri is well poised to play against his former club, but long term, there will be times where Gvardiol starts at left back, and you've also got Nathan Ake who can play there. And Man City are really difficult to predict when it comes to rotation. I think Rodri, when he's back in September to October, Erling Haaland, these are the only two players you can rely on for consistent starts. And then you're looking at possibly Reinders, but that is certainly a debate and questionable. So let's see if I can quickly update this again and go back to the predicted lineups. And then afterwards, I'll go back to your questions. You know the drill by now. So yeah, let's see if I can get this going. Okay, so in just a couple of moments, I will be showing you my update predicted lineups, which has several changes from yesterday. Not too many though, just like the team selection, of course, compared to my current draft. So yeah, let's see. Hopefully that doesn't end the stream or something. Okay, that's good for now. Okay. And whilst I go through these predicted lineups, I want to see your thoughts. So let me know if you disagree with anything, if you've got maybe different opinions. I absolutely understand that, and we'll keep the conversation going. Some of these lineups I was really, giving a lot of thought to, especially Man City. They're so difficult to predict, especially this season. So, yeah, there will be some inaccuracies and injuries, suspensions, all that stuff comes into play throughout the season. But, yeah, I'll do my best. And I think I've got a pretty decent track record, as you've seen over the years, with the Euros, the Club World Cup, and FPL as well, when I've done these predicted lineups in the past. So, let's see if I can go to it now and if it's reflected all the changes I've made. So... let's, oh, I don't have that. That's annoying. Okay, so that's something else I've got to do here quickly. Bombaclar, that's a Bombaclar. Alright, so delete that. I'm gonna put this. So yeah, apologies, I'll get back to you very shortly. But yeah, the lineups are coming up right now, so enjoy, I guess. Yeah. Yep. So, let's pause that. For Arsenal, I've gone for Raya in goal, Ben White on the right. I do have a concern about Jurrien Timber potentially starting there, and long-term he will be the preferred choice, but Ben White has been impressive in pre-season, and Jurrien Timber hasn't played as many minutes. He also had some injury problems towards the end of the last campaign, but I think Saliba and Gabriel will be in central defence with Lewis Skelly on the left, but some predicted lineups I've seen have Calafiori there, and he's also featured a lot in pre-season, mainly as a left centre-back. Zubimendi, Odegaard and Rice should be the midfield, with Saka and Martinelli on the wings, and Victor Gyökeres up front. I'm fairly confident about that. And I think in a matter of weeks, months, Madueke will be the starting left winger for Arsenal, unless they also sign somebody else. They are apparently looking in the transfer market for new signings. Eze's one of them, but also a top left winger to elevate that position. We'll see if that comes to fruition. For Aston Villa, I've put Morgan Rogers back into that lineup, but I have made a change from yesterday, and that's Tielemans in an attacking midfield role and Kamara alongside Onana. So I don't have I don't have Marlin in the starting 11 right now, and I just think his minutes are all over the place. Maatsen versus Dean will always be a debate, and that's why Konsa remains the best way of covering Villa defensively. Bizot will replace the suspended Emi Martinez. Matty Cash and Pau Torres should start, but there's also a concern there with Tyrone Mings, who can start in central defence. I've also gone for Ollie Watkins up front. That is very standard stuff. And the new signing, Guesson, should start in the next couple of weeks, and he could be their main choice on the right-hand side. With Bournemouth, I've made one change, or in fact two. I put Brooks as the right winger, Tavernier as the attacking midfielder, and Semenyo on the left. And Evanilson remains up front. And I've also put their new signing, Diakite, in central defence with Senesi. Petrovic is in goal. Smith and Troffer are the fullbacks. Scott and Adams is the likely defensive midfield partnership. But if we see Scott play in a more advanced role, then we could see Traore, a 4-point fouling midfielder, start for Bournemouth against Liverpool away. Next up is Brentford, and Kelleher and Schade remain doubtful. I'm more confident about Kelleher starting. He's a goalkeeper, he had a little knock, and he missed only one preseason game. Kevin Schade, though, has missed several weeks, and that one is a little bit less likely. So we could see Lewis Potter as the left winger against Nottingham Forest away. But Coyote, Collins, Vandenberg, and Henry is the likely back four. Yarmolenko alongside one of Jensen or Henderson is the way to go. Damsgaard as the attacking midfielder, Carvalho on the right, and Igor Thiago up front. With Brighton, I've also had a few selection headaches here, especially with Rotter. Will he play up front or as the attacking midfielder? And it wouldn't surprise me to see O'Reilly in that attacking midfield role and Jorginho up front. So that is another possibility there for Brighton and Hove Albion, but the rest remains the same with Verbruggen, Vifa, Van Heck, Dunk, and De Kuyper, Baleba and Ayari in central midfield, Mitoma and Minter on the wings. That is fairly locked in, I'd say. The same goes for Burnley. Well, maybe not actually, because there is the possibility they will opt for a back five against Tottenham and in those sort of fixtures. Then against Sunderland, they'll revert back to this 4-2-3-1 formation that they've used a lot in pre-season. But if they were to go for a back five, we could even see Twan Sebe alongside Walker, Ekdal, Esteve and Hartman. With Dubravka in goal, he's no longer yellow flagged. And also the new signing, Ogachukwu, in central midfield alongside Cullen. I think Edwards will start, but some Burnley fans don't think so from what I've seen, and that could especially be the case if they play a back five. Miebri and Anthony would also partner Lyle Foster in those attacking areas, but we'll see what they do against Tottenham. With Chelsea, another team that also have a few 50-50 calls, like Reece James versus Gusto. Could they even play together with Enzo Fernandez as the attacking midfielder, then Palmer on the right and Neto on the left? I wouldn't be fully settled on Pedro Neto, with Esteval being very impressive in pre-season, especially against Bayer Leverkusen when he scored in that 2-0 victory. Robert Sanchez should be the starting goalkeeper, Cucurella on the left, and I've gone for Reece James here as the other fullback, with Tosin Adarabioyo, who cost 4.5 million, partnering Chalobah in central defence, Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez, Palmer, Neto, Gittin, so I'm less sure of in terms of the starting berth, and Joao Pedro. And over time, something I discussed yesterday, we could see Delap up front, Joao Pedro just behind him, and then Palmer and Neto on the wing. So Chelsea have plenty of options there as well. With Crystal Palace, Dean Henderson in goal, Chris Richards, Lacroix, and Mark Gay, who looks set to stay at Crystal Palace. I also think Wharton will partner Hughes in the midfield, with Kamada coming off injured in the Community Shield final, Daniel Munoz and Mitchell as the wing-backs, Sarr, Eze, and Jean-Philippe Mateta is the standard front three for them. With Everton, Branthwaite is injured for the next month, so he'll be replaced by the 4-point family defender Michael Keane, and Mikalenko has a chance of featuring in Gameweek 1 against Leeds, but if not, it will be Asnu in that left-back spot. Pickford, Tarkowski and O'Brien are locked in. Idrissa Gana Gueye and Ghana is what I think will be their likely midfield partnership. Alcaraz on the right, Ndai on the left, Dewsbury Hall just behind Beto, but that could easily be Tierno Barry over the next couple of weeks. And also with the signing of Grealish, how will Everton line up? Will it be Alcaraz on the bench, then Ndai on the right and Grealish on the left? That is possible, but something I talked about earlier, was also having Dewsbury Hall playing deeper and then Grealish as the number 10, which is his best position in my opinion. Now with Fulham, we've got a 4.5 million potential starter in Josh King in the midfield, and Joachim Andersen is proven to be very popular for those defensive contributions. Ryan Sessegnon is yellow flagged. That has changed from the recording of yesterday's video, and Robinson is ruled out as confirmed by Marco Silva in his press conference today. Leno in goal, Bassi and Tete complete the defensive line, Sandenberg and Lukic in central midfield, Harry Wilson, the in-form 5-goal man in pre-season, with Iwobi on the wings, and Raul Jimenez up front, as Rodrigo Muniz is constantly linked with a move away. Leeds United have signed a new striker in Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but I think Pirlo will start in Gameweek 1, and they've got one injury doubt in Bogle, who is yellow flagged. Perry is the goalkeeper, with Rodon and Strauch. Biol, their new signing, is suspended for Gameweek 1, and Goodmanson would be on the left-hand side. Ampadu, Tanaka and Stack will be the midfield. Daniel James and Nonto on the wings, and I do think Pirlo starts for one more game anyway. With Liverpool, the only concern I would have is McAllister versus Curtis Jones, but I think it'll be Alisson, Frimpong, Konate, Van Dijk and Kirkes, Szoboszlai alongside McAllister, Salah, Wirtz, Gakpo and Ekitike. That is what I think they'll go for tonight. Man City, yeah, huge caveat here, but I've gone for Trafford in goal. Ederson is going to be left out of the squad against Wolves, so my original prediction of Trafford starting looks to actually be true. So well done, Dylan. You got one right. Matheus Nunes on the right. That could definitely be debatable with Rico Lewis getting an assist in the recent preseason friendly. And I don't have Gavardio in here right now, with John Stones and Ruben Dias in central defence. A lot of Man City fans in the Blue Moon Forum have gone for this prediction of these two starting in this position. Aitner is the left back. Gundogan, Reinders and Bernardo Silva, with Cherki, Doku and Haaland. So that means no Marmoush. I'm very, very conflicted about this. I think two of Cherki, Doku and Marmoush start, but not all three at the same time, unless Man City do something very bold and they start, or they drop one of Gundogan and Bernardo Silva, maybe have Reinders playing deeper, and then have Cherki in the midfield. They can also play a 4-2-3-1 formation, of course, and that could work as well. With Man United, another kind of problem I've had is, will Sesko start from the get-go? And whilst I wouldn't rule it out, I think it'll be Casemiro and Ugarte in central midfield, Bruno Fernandes and Mbeumo as the inside forwards, and Mateus Cunha up front. But yet another possibility is keeping Fernandes in a deeper position, but then having Mount as the left inside forward and Cunha up front. Bayern should be the starting goalkeeper, but Onana is close to returning. He has been in training, of course. Yoro, De Ligt and Shaw is the likely free centre-back partnership, and Amad Diallo and Dorgu would be the wing-backs. We are getting to the end of this segment, of course, and maybe later in the stream I'll go through them one more time, as in playing them, but I'm not going to go for this commentary again, otherwise, yeah, just no. Nick Pope in goal for Newcastle, Trippier and Livramento as the fullbacks, and over time, of course, Lewis Hall, once he gets over those injury problems, he will be the left back and Livramento on the right. Cher and Byrne in central defence, but they have signed, he actually gave his Chow from AC Milan for 40 million, because I remember the pronunciation video from yesterday. Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes and Joelinton in the midfield. Jacob Murphy, Barnes and Gordon. Now, Elanga could start at right wing. Gordon is a doubt, but that is what I've gone for with Newcastle United. Nottingham Forest is quite settled for now. Sells in goal. Aina, Milenkovic, Murillo, Nico Williams, Sangare and Anderson in the midfield. Then Ndoye, their new signing, on the right-hand side. Hudson-Odoi on the left. And Gibbs-White just behind Chris Wood, who I think could still be decent in FPL, but I'm not that keen on him this season. With Sunderland, it should be Roths in goal, with Hume, Ballard, Sealt and Renildo Mandava, then Siddiqui, Diarra and Shaq in the midfield, Talby and Adingra on the wings, and Mayenda up front. Mark Guiu hasn't featured in the recent pre-season friendlies. And with Tottenham Hotspur, it's a close call between Richarlison and Solanke, and at the moment I've gone for Richarlison, but that could certainly change. And will they actually make wholesale changes? I've seen Odegaard in a lot of predicted lineups over Brennan Johnson, but I think they'll go for Vicario, Borro, Romero, potentially Van der Ven. That could easily be Danso, Jed Spence, Joao Paulinho, Bentancur, Kudus, Pape Matar, Johnson, and potentially Richarlison up front. With West Ham, Ariola's days seem to be numbered, and we could see Hermansen start very soon. Todibo, Agurd, and Kilman in central defence. Wan-Bissaka and Diouf as the wing-backs. Potts, a 4-point fouling midfielder, should start alongside Ward-Prowse. Bowen, Paqueta, and Fulkrug completes the penultimate team because Wolves is last with Jose Sarr, Doughty, Agbadu, and Totti Gomez, Hoover and the new signing Wolf as the wing-backs, João Gomez and Andre in central midfield, and then two new signings in Arias and Fer Lopez will partner Strand Larsen up front in a decent lineup there for Wolves, at least from an attacking perspective. I do worry about their wing-backs though. Losing both Nuri and Semedo could be very costly for them this season. But that wraps up all 20 Premier League teams and my updated and final predicted lineups for Game Week 1. And of course, things change so quickly in football and FPL. But now, going back to show my ugly mug and also your comments in the messages. We've got just over an hour left until the deadline closes. Let's lock in our teams. And what I'm going to do now is actually make some transfers, I think, because I like to tinker and overthink. You probably know me by now. So here you can see Pedro Porro and Reinders getting into my team. I'm 0.5 million off here. Now, Verts the Gakpo is one way of doing it. I could also... I mean, Ndai is also someone I'm not completely against selling and downgrading, but let me know in the live chat what would you change to facilitate this team and buying Porro in for Mickey van der Ven. And as I mentioned earlier, and I think this is a good idea for a poll now, let's go to this very quickly. Let's go to Fantasy Football Hub and the two teams. So they're going to be stacked side by side. One is preferred over the other by Fantasy Football Hub, but I'm more keen on what people think, not just the algorithm. So I'm going to put this poll out very quickly and also end the pinned comment. But it's a pleasure to welcome you on board for FPL this season and also for UCL Fantasy, which was released yesterday, I believe. And what I'm going to do now is give 5 memberships. And at the very end, I'll be gifting 5 more. So let's see who gets them. So, Heated 45, Richard Downs, Kuka, David's Football and Talking Games, and also King Shaz. Enjoy your memberships for an entire month. You'll be getting early access to my content, priority to reply to comments in videos and live streams, and much more. All the links and also the perks, they can be found in the description. So big up to yourselves, and 5 more viewers will be gifted a membership for an entire month. And a big up to those that have signed up. I think preseason is the best time to do so. And some of you got early access days in advance. So big up to all of you and thank you for the support. We do have another super chat in the building, and this time it is by Lager. Thank you very much. Kudus 6.5, Roger 7 million, or Eze? That is a great question, and I don't think much separates the 3 of them. I think long term, Eze is my favourite. Even if he joins Arsenal, Tottenham, or stays at Palace, I think irrespective of that situation, I think once his future is settled, I think he'll be the best of the 3. But because we don't know where he's going to be yet, he could miss a game or 2 if, you know, a transfer happens and stuff like that. I think from Game Week 1 onwards, I would say Rodgers. Despite the yellow flag, I think he'll start, and Aston Villa are top of the FDR for the first 8 game weeks. But you might have a different opinion about that. That's fair enough. It's a really good question. I'm going to stick with Rodgers, though, for my answer. And let's also put a poll out. And let's see. So let's put Team A. So be... no Palmer. And this will be with Palmer. I think that's probably just the best way of doing it. Okay, so... this team you see on screen is Team A. So Sanchez in goal, Borro, Frimpong, Nico Williams, Salah, Verts, Ndai, Kudus, Watkins, Bowen, Joao Pedro. On the bench, I've got Dubravka, Reinders, Reynildo Mandava, and Konsa. So that is the team without Cole Palmer. This is Team A. And the second team, Team B, is this one. Sanchez in goal, Borro, Murillo, Wan-Bissaka, Salah, Palmer, Verts, Ndai, and Reinders in the starting 11. Watkins and Joao Pedro up front. And on the bench, I've got Dubravka, Reynildo Mandava, Konsa, and Mark Guiu. So you could argue it essentially boils down to, I think Kudus and, and Bowen, or going for something like Palmer. I mean, am I even doing it the right way? Palmer and Mark Guiu, I guess. and it would mean starting Reinders instead of benching him, which I do for the first team. So let me know your thoughts in the live chat. Also, in terms of the defense, of course, it means going from Frimpong all the way down to Wan-Bissaka. So that's another sacrifice, so to speak, by facilitating Cole Palmer. But yeah, just one more time. This is Team A without the Chelsea talisman, and this is Team B with Cole Palmer in the 50-man squad. So let's see what you lot vote for. Wow, Team B is winning by a landslide. Wow. Bruh. Big bruh moment. I did not expect that, but fair enough. Oh, yeah, the flag is removed, isn't it? Yeah. Because he is in training as well. Yeah, that is true, Lager. Yeah. I think he's still got a yellow flag on my... Yeah, I'll try to update that as well. Consa over Cash? Yes, I wouldn't go for Cash, to be honest. I think Consa is the best way of covering Aston Villa defensively. It's boring, but it's also safe, and I just think it's sensible and logical, to be fair. So yeah, thank you, Lag, for reminding me. Let me remove that yellow flag from Rodgers. Yeah, things change so quickly. I mean, Dubravka was yellow flagged out of nowhere, and then next minute he's back to normal again. So yeah, let's change Rodgers and make sure that is updated. I also corrected all the prices and stuff for all the players. So yeah, let's do that very quickly. I'll be showing you the predicted lineups one more time, but I won't be going through it as in speaking. I will be going through your questions whilst those graphics play on screen, and that will be later in this stream, just for those that are joining a bit late maybe. But I also don't want to repeat myself too much for the sake of repetition. So yeah, with just over an hour left to lock in, these are critical moments, you could say, in our FPL season. Is it over before it even began? Let's find out after the break. Let's see the next question as well. Hey Dylan, ¿cómo vas? ¿Crees que es un error no tener a nadie de Aston Villa? Gracias, amigo. Y también, te digo, la verdad, es imposible cubrir todo, pero Aston Villa es primero en términos de las jornadas, tienen los mejores partidos hasta la jornada 8, y yo creo que Rodgers es una buena opción en el medio campo, y Oli Watkins está en muy buena forma, con 5 goles en 5 partidos seguidos, y tienes a Konsa como un defensor de 4.5 millones que ofrece distintas posiciones. Puede jugar como central y por la derecha, y también puede tener defensive contributions. Así que para mí, Konsa es una buena opción, pero es todo de Watkins para mí. Es la mejor opción, o la mejor opción de Aston Villa. Best 5 million got Nico. Yeah, I would have been tempted to say Mikalenko, but there's a possibility he doesn't start in Gameweek 1. So, I mean, does it have to be specifically 5 million? Because I'd maybe point you towards a 4.5 option like Wan-Bissaka, for example. At 5 million, I'm sure there's someone. I would have probably said Levi Colwell before his injury. So yeah, let's see what we can play with here. But I do agree with you. I think Nico Williams is the best 5 million defender. So the next best, I think Collins is pretty decent, actually. Lacroix, Collins, Gay, Richards, those are the ones I'd be looking at, actually. The likes of Chalobah and Tosin Adarabioyo, whilst I think they start in Gameweek 1, they're not nailed. I think Kilman's underrated. Diouf and Wan-Bissaka, those are the ones I'd be looking at. If you're looking a bit longer term, then Dorgu isn't too bad, but yeah, I think my favourite is probably going to be Collins, actually. Yeah. Bit of a surprising answer, maybe, but in terms of defensive contributions, he's very impressive. Nagib says, should I downgrade Bowen to Guiu to upgrade Anderson to Bruno? Well, I've got a similar problem, actually, for my team, and it basically comes down to getting Palmer. On face value, I'd say no. But it also depends. Yeah, I mean, Anderson. I'm going to stick with the Bowen-Anderson duo there for you. Play Diouf or Nico Williams. I'm going to go for Nico Williams. Have a look at Diouf, unsteady. Of Wan-Bissaka, he's got an amazing cross on him and is really attacking. Well, I think they'll both start together, and Walker-Peters will be the backup who can cover in both positions. Yeah, Diouf will be the more exciting pick. He's got lower ownership. He's got a better final end product than Wan-Bissaka. But I also think AWB, the spider, so to speak, Obi-Wan, he's got the defensive contribution potential, in my opinion, and I think Kilman's even better when it comes to that. But there's certainly a debate. I think all of them being priced at 4.5 makes it a very big decision to make, actually. Yeah, I agree, Dan Frey. I think those are the two standouts, so we are in agreement there. Ahmad says, Diouf, Reinders, or Wan-Bissaka, Anderson? Yeah, great question. I'm going to stick with... I'm going to say Diouf and Reinders here. Yeah. Lower owned as well, in the case of Diouf. I know Reinders has more ownership or higher ownership than Anderson. But yeah, I think that's the way I'd go, and I'm looking at displacing Anderson myself. No worries, hard to keep track of everything in FPL. Yeah, it is, but I do appreciate it. Also, you know, when I was making previous podcasts, I encourage people to say, you know, their thoughts. Like Leeds United fans were telling me about, you know, the situation with Biol and what happens when he comes back from suspension. And a lot of them were adamant that Strag would be on the bench, and I was saying that would be potentially Rodon. So that's what it's all about. And I think sometimes you need that bit of feedback. Otherwise, you don't notice. I actually had Beto at, what, 6 million? So I made the mistake with the pricing, and I wouldn't have realized if someone didn't tell me, because there's so many players, I just was like, ugh, like a zombie. Why didn't you consider any Arsenal defenders? I've considered them, to be honest. I think Gabriel's a great option. He was in one of my drafts, but the fixtures just aren't good enough. And I'm also open to free hitting in Game Week 2, where I could double or triple up on the Gunners. So that's why I've currently got no Arsenal players, let alone defenders. Best midfield at 5 million, I'm going to say Dewsbury Hall. Salah and Watkins or Haaland and Wirtz? That's a great question. Wow. I'm going to say Salah and Watkins, but really close. I mean, that is a flip of a coin, if there ever was one. Keep 0.5 in the bank with Nico Williams or Murillo. Both options are viable, and I think Nico Williams is underrated when it comes to defensive contributions, but I would go for Murillo in this case. And thank you, Twisted Parky, for moderating. Shortly afterwards, you sorted out. It seems like, yeah, you were spamming. Thank you, Lager, as well, for another super chat. If you've got a message or anything, let me know. But I do appreciate your contributions to the channel and all your work as well in the Discord server. Thank you very much. When will you play Bench Boost? I'm quite open-minded about this, but the plan is to do it quite early in the season, and I don't have an exact game week penciled in. I have made a chip strategy guide where I talk about the kind of best times on paper to use every single booster, but a lot is team dependent. So I think with a free hit, for example, around Game Week 2 is when I'm looking to play it. I think with a wild card, I know Game Week 13 is a possibility, but I'm looking at Game Week 8 instead. The triple captain, I'm fairly set on Game Week 14 for Salah against Sunderland at home. I think the bench boost might actually be the one I'm least confident or sure about in terms of the best time to play it, but I don't think I'll do it in Game Week 1. Let's put it that way. Hi Dylan, hope you're well. What's your opinion on Nkunku? He's going. He's leaving Chelsea, and yeah, he's just not an option right now. I mean, once his future is settled, I think he has been linked with Bayern Munich the last time I checked. Yeah, might be an option in UCL Fantasy when I cover that, but in FPL, not so much. So Anderson's not a doubt in terms of injury or fitness. I just think with Forest and the links they have with different players, the new signings, Anderson could be a doubt from that perspective. But I don't know. I still think he could play quite a lot, but it's definitely worth looking at what Forest fans think about that situation instead. Yeah, the break was really good, Kat. I still made 9 videos, not trying to, like, you know, get a sob story out of you, but yeah, I just found that balance, you know, going to the beach and then maybe sometimes if I need a break from the sun because, you know, I'm a bit too white. Yeah, I was recording videos and it was a lot of fun. Cherki or Mitoma? Well, Cherki is less nailed. I'm not even convinced he starts in Game Week 1. I'm going to go for Mitoma. Is free Aston Villa too much for the first few weeks? I don't think it's too much, but I get your question because when I had 2 free Villa players when I was in the transfer section and playing around with different structures, I thought that's a bit too much, to be fair. So maybe subconsciously I actually think otherwise, but they are top of the FDR for the first 8 game weeks. And if you look at every single pick in isolation, Konsa, 4.5 million, nailed. I think there will be a few clean sheets there for Villa. And with Rodgers, he's going to be consistent for that price point. And Ollie Watkins has been outstanding in pre-season, so I don't really blame you for tripling up. Maybe the sweet spot is 2, though. I think 2 is the ideal Villa coverage. Best 5 or 5.5 million. If this is, midfield or defence? I'm not sure what the question is, but Yeah, quickly for midfield, I'd say Dewsbury at 5. At 5.5, it's Reinders, if not Elliot Anderson at the moment. In terms of defenders, though, Nico Williams at 5, Collins and Lacroix would be short, well, just behind him, really. And at 5.5, it's between Pedro Porro, Murillo, and still Tarkovsky for me, but I think the Branthwaite injury has definitely made his appeal plummet in recent weeks. Yeah, the Kuiper's not too bad, but I think Brighton's fixtures aren't great over the first 9 game weeks. I'm looking to avoid their assets for now. I think Rotter's the one I'm keeping an eye on the most. The Kuiper isn't too shabby, but yeah, I'm not looking to go for him. He is a decent choice, the Kuiper, but I'd rather go for Wan-Bissaka, possibly Van der Ven, and all the other options I've covered in my videos, really. Yeah, I don't think the Kuiper is going to be ranked that highly to start the season anyway. Yeah, Diouf is also a good choice. I don't really mind him too much. He could easily take the place of Wan-Bissaka if I decide to go for this route, which you see on screen. This is Team B, by the way, with Cole Palmer. This is Team A. So be sure to vote in the poll. But it seems like you lot have made your mind up. 85% of the bloody vote. What is going on? But yeah, that is what people have gone for. Let's go back now to the FPL website where it actually counts. And let's see. So basically, if I can remember anything, in order to make this work... Oh yeah, so I can't go for Frimpong here, can I? Yeah, if I want Palmer, I could also go for Frimpong, but it would require another downgrade elsewhere. Yeah, Verts to Gakpo is a consideration. Frimpong to Murillo, but then I'd probably do Nico Williams to somebody else. Then that gives me an extra bit of money in the bank. I don't even mind having money in the bank, to be fair, for Game Week 1, but yeah, right now my problem is actually affording this team that you see on screen, and yeah, it might require Frimpong being displaced, which I'm not a big fan of, to be fair. But yeah, that's what happens when you try to get Pedro Porro in, another premium defender, so that'd make it 2 in this squad, and Nico Williams is a mid-priced option at 5. So yeah, definitely a lot of tinkering I think that's going to be done. I'm also considering something like this, where I can go for Gakpo. I can then do Ndai to Rodgers. And even though I don't mind tripling up on Villa, I could then get Gyökeres in for Ollie Watkins, which is a good idea for Game Week 2, especially if I decide to, commit to a no free hit strategy there. So I've got the Arsenal player for the Leeds fixture. But yeah, that's also not a bad one. It's something worth thinking about, I think. But yeah. Still plenty of time to, think of it, but I'm going to try lock in fairly early. Thank you, Paredes, for the super chat. Dylan, where can I cut money to get Sanchez and a 5.5 million Forest defender? My preference, by the way, would be Murillo, but Milenkovic is fine. So Sells, Dubravka, Frimpong, Porro, Diouf, Reinders, Tosin, Salah, Palmer, Verts, and Ndai, Reinders, João Pedro, Guiu, Watkins. Okay, so the players I'd consider downgrading here, because you're saying a 5.5 Forest defender, I would say Sells. You might be very bullish on Forest defensively, you want to double up, but you could maybe go from Sells to a 4.5 million goalkeeper. But to be honest, my recommendation is to go for one of Sanchez or Sells at 5, and I think they're long-term options there. So in your outfield team, yeah, I'm not a big fan of Tosin long-term. I think he's going to get rotated a lot. So my advice is to swap him to another 4.5. And then possibly, and I'm facing the same situation right now, downgrade Frimpong, I think, from your 15-man squad. I think that is the way to go. So Frimpong to, let's say, Murillo, if you really want to go there. I think that might be the way to go. And also, yeah, you can get Sanchez in goal. So yeah, you're saying you're going to Sanchez a goal, so he replaces Sells, and yeah, Frimpong. Yeah, that is the way. Dylan, you could downgrade Ndai to Tielemans. That's true, and I think Tielemans is underrated. He had a very strong end to the last season, and he can also get DEFCON, defensive contributions. I've gone for no Salah, Palmer, or Watkins, crapping myself, but sticking to my guns. Got Haaland, Saka, and Gyökeres. Well, I hope it goes well for you, especially with that double up in the Arsenal attack, but yeah, they are very template players you're going about. Watkins maybe not so much, but it seems like so many people have him on Twitter, Discord, and YouTube. Is it that bad to double up on the attack of Liverpool, Chelsea, Aston Villa? No, it's not. You know, I've had several drafts with Gakpo and Wirtz, with Salah and one of those players I just mentioned, with João Pedro and Palmer, and then Rodgers and Watkins. They're all good choices, so the answer is no, it's not. The only concern I'd have is if you're doubling up on all of those attacks, and that's where you'd maybe want a bit more variation. But in isolation, you know, those players you're including in your team are really good options. Nicky says, Amigo, Anderson o John Arias valen 5.5. Yo prefiero a Anderson, pero hay dudas de él. Creo que por algunos fichajes que van a hacer Nottingham Forest, pero para empezar esta temporada yo no haría por John Arias, pero es una buena opción. Lo voy a tener en cuenta y por 5.5 millones ofrece buen valor. My first team lineup says easy. Yeah, looks good. I just question the Barry pick because we could still see Beto starting game week 1, but the rest looks really good. Anderson, Rangers, or Dewsbury Hall? I'm going to say Rangers here. Thank you, Ayan. Which pairing would be better for my team? Pedro Porro and Cunha, or Bruno and Van de Ven? That's a good question. I'm going to say Porro and Cunha. And yeah, that's a pretty solid starting 11. Hey Dylan, have Palmer, Bruno, Rodgers, so stuck between Salah and João Pedro, or Haaland and Wirtz. Yeah, two really good duos, to be fair. I'm going to go for Salah and João Pedro. What are your thoughts on starting Luca Dean against Newcastle? He might not even start. I showed the predicted lineups earlier. I had Maatsen in there. That isn't a guarantee, to be honest, but yeah, I wouldn't cover Villa defensively in any other way than Konsa. Start Strand Larsen or Dewsbury Hall? I take a punt on Dewsbury Hall, even though Strand Larsen scored against City at the Molineux last season. Yeah, Daniel Marlin is a risk. Yeah, for sure. I think we could see Rodgers on the right, McGinn on the left, Tielemans as the attacking midfielder. We could even see Buendia as that central attacking midfielder, and multiple other combinations. They've also signed Guessant. I need to check the pronunciation there. After this stream is done, I'll be doing that. But yeah, I think he'll be the starting right winger over time. Obviously, Jacob Ramsey's leaving, but I still think Marlon is just a huge concern there. I was really bullish on him in one of my later drafts because of his form in pre-season, but I probably look elsewhere. So we have hit the Super Chat goal. Hopefully I haven't missed any. I'll double check that later, but let's go through Lager's one. He says, if Ashley Barnes is in the starting 11, is he worthy to be considered over Mark Guiu? I would say no, because Mark Guiu is still cheaper, and well, hold up. But yeah, Ashley Barnes, I think I just absolutely twatted that. Not gonna lie. With so many players I've seen, I think I got that wrong. I think he is 4.5. I'll double check that. Yeah, he's 4.5. The thing is, last season he didn't start a single game in the Championship. Fleming is the first choice. He currently has an injury problem. Yeah, I think Mark Guiu is more likely to break into that starting 11. To be quite honest with you, I don't think Ashley Barnes does. In my predicted lineup, I had Lau Foster to cover for the injured Fleming. So the answer is no for me. Now, if that actually happened and Ashley Barnes started, then I think that's a good idea that you're proposing there, but not for me. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Lau Foster will start against Tottenham. Joseph says, short term, 2 out of 8 Nuri, Cucurella and Frimpong. If it's short term, that's a great question. I'm still going to say Cucurella and Frimpong. I like Nuri a lot for Game Week 1, but against Tottenham, I think they'll concede, and I also think Nuri could be benched. So I'm going to stick with the other two. Chelsea have the best short-term fixtures, in my opinion, and Frimpong, even though he faces Arsenal and Bournemouth, to be honest, or Newcastle, I do like Game Week 1 and 4 for Liverpool. So it depends how short-term we're talking about. If it's the first 3 game weeks, then okay, maybe Nuri over Frimpong, I'd concede that. But if it's a little bit, you know, until Game Week 4 or 5, I'm going to say Frimpong, to be honest. Should I downgrade Bowen to Guiu? Yeah, so I did cover your question earlier, Nagib. My answer was no. It's not a bad idea, but I would rather have the other duo you, well, currently have anyway. Thank you, Punjabi. As he says, let's try to get this stream to as many likes as possible. The big aim, the ambitious one, is to get to the 300 likes on YouTube, and also we're closing in on 35,000 subscribers. The numbers keep growing every year. I do appreciate it. And we currently have 150 likes. Also, double that watching the video. So thank you very much. But let's get this rolling to even bigger numbers. I do appreciate it. And yeah, very soon we are going to lock in, I think. Are we? Am I? Who knows at this point. But yeah, I'm going to stick with this for now. So I think Watkins comes in. Well, just stays. I do like Rodgers, to be honest. I really do. And his ownership is quite low. I think he'll start against Newcastle. Damn it. Damn it. Yeah, I might still double up on Villa offensively, to be fair. I'm still open to that. But this extra 0.5 that I have now, I could then do Nico Williams to Murillo, which isn't necessary per se, but yeah, I think that could be the way to go. But that means no Florian Wirtz, of course, so I think he's very underpriced at 8.5 million. And I think he's more of a nailed-on starter than Cody Gakpo. In order to make that work and bring Wirtz back into the equation, that's where Ndai could become a 5.5 midfielder. Or I go from Murillo to a 4.5 option, maybe even Frimpong. So this is where things could change a little bit. So Frimpong to Nico Williams. Let's get this down. Williams. Yeah. And then Wirtz in. And then we've got 5.5 for a defender. Yeah, that's kind of like the last piece of the jigsaw, I think. I mean, I could still get Tarkowski. I'm not completely against him now, but yeah, it's not looking amazing. In order to get Frimpong, it's going to be very difficult. So yeah, let me know what you would do in the live chat in terms of finding 0.5 million. Would you do Wirtz to Gakpo? Or perhaps make another sacrifice elsewhere? That is my remaining dilemma, I think. And yeah, I'm getting close to locking in. I am quite keen on the Salah-Palmer structure. Richards or Anderson in defence? For Game Week 1, I think Chelsea Palace will be low scoring, but Chelsea will score. I'm going to say Anderson for Game Week 1. In Mbumo starting, yes, he should start alongside Cunha, and then it could be Bruno Fernandes in that front three. Maybe they'll go for Sesko from the get-go, and then Fernandes plays alongside Ugarte or Casemiro. Hi, Dylan. Dorgu from United or Richards? I prefer Richards from those two. Yeah, Carvalho up 5 million. I think Brentford will sign another winger, and to be fair, Dango Ouattara is close to signing for them. I think it's basically been given the here we go by Fabrizio, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Gabriel is fine. I mean, he played against Athletic Bilbao. He played really well, by the way. I mean, is there a chance he's benched? I guess so, but I think he will start. My main concern, actually, is Ben White versus Timber on the right-hand side, actually. Should I downgrade Bowen to Gu? Yeah, Nagib, I'm not going to lie, mate. I've answered your question 2 or 3 times. The answer was I wouldn't do it. So, yeah, there's one chat here from Lager. Did you notice that Gvardiol is red flagged? Well, yeah, it's a good thing I changed the predicted lineup anyway. I was going to have him in yesterday's video, the updated lineups, but I just saw so many websites and predictions having Gvardiol in there. But yeah, Stones and Diaz could be a Kanji, but I think that is the most likely centre-back partnership. I actually wasn't aware Gvardiol was red flag, so thank you. It's too many players. It's also worth joining the Discord server. Check the link in the description, and we basically have automatic updates. Whenever there's an injury, there's a yellow flag, anything like that, suspension, it's all updated there. Any goal, assist, points being removed, it's all updated in the Discord server. So be sure to join it. There is a link in the description. And yeah, it's a great community to be a part of. That's how people were able to get their teams rated in that video, the Rating Your Teams podcast. So yeah. Very, very soon, I'm gonna lock in, I think. That's the wrong one. Okay. So yeah, we are approaching the deadline now. Time does fly when you're having fun. And yeah, very shortly, I will actually make some bloody progress. Can you believe it? I can't. So yeah, 0.5 million. I can't lie, my biggest temptation at the moment is to literally just do verts to Cody Gakpo. I think that is where my head's at. And then maybe Ndai to Rodgers. That would mean tripling up on Liverpool and Aston Villa, which definitely has its kerfuffles, so to speak. Okay, let's get back to the live chat for a little bit more, and then I'll be making some transfers, finally. Reinders to Sarr, not for me, but Sarr has been impressive in pre-season, that's for sure. Wirtz or Bruno? Florian Wirtz. Wan-Bissaka or Konsa? I prefer Konsa longer term. For the first 8 game weeks, Villa are top of the FDR. If it's game week 1 specifically, that's a bit different, but I'm going to say Konsa. Trafford or Raya for game week 1? It would be Trafford. I think City keep a clean sheet. Nicholas says Van Dijk and Nico Williams or Tarkowski and Murillo. Yeah, good question. I prefer Van Dijk and Nico Williams. Salah pick after first 3 games. He's a bit rusty now and will delegate attack to young, newer players like Wirtz, Gakpo, and Ekitike. Yeah, but there was also this thing last season where Diaz started on fire. He had more points than Salah for the first 4 to 6 game weeks, and then we all know how that turned out. So, yeah, with Salah, he played poorly against Palace, but I think he's still a top-quality player. He had a bad end to last season. It's kind of a pattern. So, yeah, with pre-season, we haven't seen the best of him. He only had 1 good performance, I think. And against Bournemouth, I think he'll be more than ready to do the business. Any Leeds fans want to know if Nemecha or Pirlo will start? Yeah, I think that's worth mentioning. Obviously, Calvert-Lewin has joined, and I think over time he'll be the starting striker for them. But, I mean, I'm not a Leeds fan, but I think Pirlo will start in Game Week 1. And I did cover the lineups earlier, so just rewind the stream or go to my latest video, the updated lineups, and you'll see that as well. Gakpo and Haaland or Salah and Strand Larsen? I'm going to say Gakpo and Haaland here, but pretty close. Kamazi says bench boost. Plan to put Bruno to Gakpo / Wirtz, Larsen to Watkins. Yeah, I think so. I prefer Wirtz and Watkins. Actually, how do you make that work? But yeah, Larsen to Watkins, definitely an upgrade. And yeah, I think I'd rather go for the Liverpool attackers than Bruno Fernandes right now. That's the way I look at it. With your setup, yeah, with the bench boost, it's looking strong, but the Dubravka against Tottenham away, I just don't really see that really paying off. With your other options, though, it's looking good. Having Maatsen and Konsa and Dorgu. So I think the defensive line lets down the bench boost. And you've also got, is that Idrissa Gana Gueye? Yeah, those are the players that I'm concerned about. I don't think, I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong if you bench boost, but I don't think that makes for the high scoring bench boost for Game Week 1. Mateta or Reinders to start? Mateta. It would be Reinders, Carl. Gyökeres or Watkins says it's the demon. Watkins. I think Reinders will start most games, not all, but a lot also depends on Rodri. So you could look at it 1 or 2 ways. Rodri out, it means Reinders is more nailed on, but at the same time, he could also play deeper. You'd rather have Gonzalez play as the holding midfielder, and Reinders is playing a bit more advanced. At 5.5 million, my favourite is Borro. Murillo is also quite close there. Thank you, me. Double Spurs or double Forest defence? Double Forest. The only Spurs defender I'd recommend is Pedro Porro. Sto Wan-Bissaka or Anderson? Wan-Bissaka. Murillo, Porro, Reinders or Williams, Van de Ven and Rodgers? That's a close one. Murillo, Porro and Rodgers for me. Joao Pedro is not essential. Even the likes of Salah and Haaland, as good as they are, they're not essential. If you go about Salah, Haaland and Palmer, then yeah, that's really risky, for example, and I'd recommend having one of them, but it's not like, oh, I've got Salah but not Haaland, am I going to, do badly? No, that's not going to happen. Beto normally starts for Everton, but there were some rumours, unconfirmed reports of him falling out with David Moyes. I don't believe the source, to be honest. But also over time, I think Tiano Barry will be the starting striker. Bench boost Gameweek 1, yes or no? It really depends on your team, Oscar. For me, I'm not looking to bench boost right now. Hi, Dylan, Ivanoson and Wirtz, or Mateta, Jorginho and Gakpo. I'd rather go for Gakpo, Mateta and Jorginho Rota. Wan-Bissaka, Nico Williams or Borro, drop one. If I had to drop one, it'd be Wan-Bissaka. Van Dijk or Frimpong, really close. Because of Bradley's injury and Frimpong's attacking threat, I would lean towards Frimpong to start the season, but he is more short-term. Thank you, Kamazi. Yeah, it's just my opinion of it. They're not bad picks. I think Idrissa Gana Gueye is the worst one. The rest are pretty well thought out, but yeah, I would probably change a few things in that defensive line. You can downgrade Borro to Van de Ven. Well, no, I don't want to do that. I'm literally trying to get to Borro and upgrade from Van de Ven, who could be benched in Gameweek 1. I also think his injury record is quite suspect. I know Borro was benched a lot last season, but that was under Ange Postecoglou, and I also think he'll be a regular starter for Tottenham Hotspur. Johnson nailed or switch? He's not nailed. A lot of predicted lineups have Odegaard starting as the left winger and Kudus on the right. They're also linked with Savinho. So, yeah, Johnson is not nailed. I do have him in my lineup, but he's not someone I'd go for in FPL. Yeah, Saka or Gyökeres, as covered earlier, I do prefer Saka, even though he's more expensive. I just think he offers that consistency and different avenues to points, whilst with Gyökeres, you're pretty much just getting goals, but probably a lot of them, and hopefully that's the case from Gameweek 1. Ayari or Matoma? It would be Matoma. Ayari has been in good form in pre-season, but it's really Matoma or Jorginho Rota from Brighton. Thank you, Simon. Yeah, Mbuma's a good option, but I do have preferences elsewhere. For example, if I really wanted to, I could do Wirtz to a United midfielder like Cunha or Mbuma, but I'm not looking to do that right now, to be quite honest with you. So, let's see. We are getting close. I think what I am looking to do here is probably Frimpong. I think is the one to make way, but I know I'll regret that if I do it. That's the problem. Ekatike thoughts? Yeah, I think a lot of people are quite bullish on him after the Community Shield final. At 8.5 million, he's the starting striker for now. I think that could change, though, by the end of the transfer window. I still think Isak could move there, so he could be a problem. I think Murillo's better for ball recoveries and defensive contributions than Milenkovic, and I also expect Murillo to get more goals this season. Not than Milenkovic, but as in more goals as a personal target. Hi, Dylan. Good luck for the season. Thoughts on Verbruggen, Gudmundsson, Fulkrug, and Pirou? Yeah, thank you, Righty. I think that's a decent bench boost. I mean, you are backing Leeds United against Everton. Verbruggen, I had him on my bench boost last season. He was terrible, but of course, you know, this is a different campaign. And Brighton have been in good form in pre-season, but I am backing a high-scoring draw, or at least both teams to score in that Fulham-Brighton match. I think Fulkrug is a very good option on the bench boost. So, yeah, I think that's a strong one. Pirou will be a sell, I think, after Gameweek 1. We could see Calvert-Lewin start for Leeds United, but that shouldn't be the case against Everton in Gameweek 1. So, yeah, as a bench boost, that's absolutely fine. Hey, Dylan, hope all is well. Likewise, Affair. Dewsbury Hall and Diouf or Morgan and Esteve. I would go for Rodgers and Esteve only if you don't have another 4 million defender like Reinildo Mandava. So yeah, coffee for free. I have answered that question, I think, 2 or 3 times, mate. Akraf says, is it a problem that all of us have 90% of the players that play at home? Well, in Gameweek 2, a popular strategy will be to free hit, actually. A lot of fixtures look quite tough there and awkward, but you can then triple up on Arsenal, get 1 or 2 City players, maybe double, triple up on Bournemouth against Wolves at home, depending on who you favour in that game. So, yeah, I think that is a good point. A lot of our players are at home in Gameweek 1, but sometimes, I mean, the home-away thing, for certain clubs anyway, it's not really a big factor. I know for Newcastle, over the years, we've seen them being much stronger at St James's Park, but that kind of evened out a little bit last season. Reinders, Anderson or Rutter? Reinders. Salah is the best captain for me, as covered earlier. I'll go through those graphics one more time. Haaland is second. Frimpong and Van der Ven, or Murillo and Borro. It would be Murillo and Pedro Borro. Piru is suspended. What? No, he's not suspended. What are you on about? Best 4.5 to rotate with Van de Ven. Interesting. I think Konsa would be the best one to rotate with him. If not, you're looking at Wan-Bissaka, but yeah, Konsa for me is the best one to rotate. I don't think Margui will start this weekend. I don't know it, but if you're asking my opinion, no. They don't have the same CBIT, Batonga. I did cover this in like multiple videos before about the impact of defensive contributions on last season, what that would have meant for the defender standings, and Murillo got more defensive contribution points than Milenkovic. I think the Serbian got less than 30, and Murillo got 36, something like that. So I don't think that's the case. They're both really good options, though, and Milenkovic is going under the radar a little bit. Fulkrug and Wirtz or Pedro and Rogers. I would go for Pedro and Rogers. Frimpong or Anderson? Frimpong. Are Sunderland better than Burnley defensively? I don't think so. I'm just going for Reinildo right now because I've got Dubravka as my backup goalkeeper, but you could argue that Esteve is better in isolation as well, but I don't like doubling up on Burnley defensively, even if they're on my bench. Why do I prefer Watkins over Gyökeres? He's been in incredible form in pre-season. Villa are top of the FDR, the fixture difficulty rating for the first 8 game weeks, and Arsenal are bottom for the first 6. And also Gyökeres is acclimatizing to his new team and vice versa. Your thoughts on Mateta? Yeah, good option. I mean, the same can be said about Sarr and Eze, but yeah, I think Mateta is one of the best 7-point family and forwards in the game. But you've also got Bowen at 0.5 more, Joao Pedro at the same price. Mittoma's a decent pick in my opinion, Oscar, but Brighton's fixtures are a bit mixed bag. Welcome, Eddie. It's a good team. I don't have many complaints about it per se. I do like the look of it. You might want to consider Borro instead of Munoz, and then you can always go back to the Palace winger in a few weeks' time. But yeah, I think that's absolutely fine, to be fair. Yeah, Sunderland have better fixtures than Burnley, that is true. Much better, in fact, and Sunderland are top of the FDR, I think, over the first 4 game weeks. Rogers or Tielemans and save 1 million. Rogers. Surianch says, hey Dylan, hope you're doing well. Would you suggest Pedro Porro over Mateta? To start, well, I wouldn't be benching Porro this week, that's for sure. It's a tough one, but I would start Pedro Porro. Spence is decent, but once a doggy is back in 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to see rotation there. Fulkrug to Bowen, downgrading Sells to Verbruggen, thanks a lot. I'm not a big fan of Verbruggen and Brighton defensively, but I think Fulkrug to Bowen is a massive upgrade, so I'm going to say yes. Valdimarsson or Sanchez? Valdimarsson is only going to start if Keller's out, and I think Keller will start. It's going to be Sanchez for me. Start 1, Williams or Dewsbury Hall. It's Nico Williams. Bench boost of Dubravka, Rodon, Goodmanson, De Kuiper, Dewsbury Hall. It is a good bench boost. I'm not a big fan of Dubravka though. I've only got him on my bench because he's 4 million and he could be quite useful in Game Week 2 and whenever you need him. But yeah, he's the one that maybe lets it down a little bit. I would go for Goodmanson over Rodon personally, even though Leeds fans are adamant that Rodon will stay in that lineup. I think with Goodmanson, there's no concerns about that whatsoever. I'm a bit concerned about the Kuiper. The same goes for Bruggen for those that are bench boosting as well in Game Week 1. Dewsbury Hall, though, is a bit exciting at 5 million in Game Week 1, yeah. Yeah, Van Dijk, or was it Van de Ven nailed? No, I don't think so, especially with his injury record. De Kuiper or Diouf? It's going to be Diouf. No need to spam, mate. Just ask it once. Hi, Dylan. Any thoughts on Danny Welbeck? There is a chance he's benched, and we could see Jorginho Rutter up front and O'Reilly as the attacking midfielder, so take that with a pinch of salt. In my lineup, I've got Welbeck up front and Rutter behind him, but he's not a guaranteed starter. I don't think Frimpong's the best defender, but he is one of my favourites to start the season in Game Week 1. Thank you, Sydney. Hey, Dylan, excited for the new season. Glad to have you back. Thank you very much for the kind words. So yeah, to become a member, you click the join button on YouTube and there are different tiers there. Be sure to have a look. You can also find the perks in the description. And you can also become a patron, so you get the same access. The only thing you don't get is the badges on YouTube, which are quite fancy. But yeah, that's the way to join. There are also links in the description for patron and also those memberships on YouTube. Bowen or Gyökeres if I have Saka? Bowen. Wirtz or Gakpo? Ideally Wirtz. I'm considering going to Gakpo to fund other moves, actually. What's your AI FPL predictor difference? Mine's 93. Well, it depends on the algorithm you're using. So with Fantasy Football Hub, if I go back to this one, so this team, which has this sort of structure with no Jared Bowen, but it has Watkins, it has no Palmer, but it has Watkins, Bowen, and Joao Pedro. It's 92% for the team overall and 94% for the week. However, this one with Palmer, which is winning the vote, as you can see, with 84%, has Sanchez in goal, Borro, Murillo, Wan-Bissaka, all this stuff. 97% and 96% for the game week. So, I mean, I don't try to look at that too much, but I mean, yeah, you'd rather have a high number, wouldn't you? But it does depend. If you're using a different website, it's not really fair to compare our teams and the ratings they get. Yeah, Mbeumo should start. I've got no concerns about that. Best 4.5 keeper. I think long-term it's going to be Kelleher, and Petrovic is maybe second, but I think Bournemouth are also a bit of a team to watch out for. I mean, Brentford too. Both of them have been decimated at the back, and, well, both teams have lost key players, really. Thoughts on Cherki, as my defence is fairly expensive. He's a big rotation risk. I think even Reinders will start more games, but yeah, Cherki's exciting, that's for sure. Frimpong also likely to play as a right winger at December. That is true, but I'm not picking Frimpong at the moment with a view of AFCON and stuff like that, because I've got the wild card as well, which I'll surely use between Game Week 8 to 13, I think. And yeah, with 5 free transfers in Game Week 16, I could easily get to Frimpong by that stage. Thoughts on Gabriel? Still one of the best defenders in the game. If I free hit in Game Week 2, I'll go for Gabriel, I think. But yeah. Last season, what we saw is Arsenal having tough opening fixtures. People avoided them. They started really well defensively with 3 clean sheets out of 4. And Gabriel was an absolute machine, scoring against Tottenham and Man City away. So definitely don't underestimate him. Best 5.5 mid, long term, and is Aina nailed? I think Reinders is the best one, and I think Aina will start most games, yeah. Is he nailed? I wouldn't call him nailed, but he should start 30 plus Premier League games, which maybe is your definition of nailed. Yeah, Josh, that is a good team. I don't like Pirlo long-term, though. With the signing of Calvert-Lewin, I think Pirlo could be on the bench fairly soon. So I'd be very careful about that, actually. But the rest looks really solid. I don't have many complaints about your players. Yeah. If you are bench boosting, I mean, there is a chance Keller does miss out. So to play it safe, you might want to change that a little bit. And you are being a bit cheeky, I think, with your bench, because you've got some really good players for the week on your bench. I mean, yeah, I mean, it doesn't really matter how you do your bench boost. As long as you're not captaining that player, you can bench whoever you like anyway, but it is a good team. Try to triple Salah with this new Bournemouth defence. I'm not against that, but my plan is to triple captain Salah in Game Week 14 against Sunderland at home. I'm also looking at Erling Haaland. He faces all 3 newly promoted clubs in the first half of the season. So those 2 are my top picks for the triple captaincy, but not in Game Week 1. De Koipa, Joao Pedro, or Fulkrug, Nico Williams. Oof. I'm going to say Joao Pedro and De Koipa, but it's a close one. And to be honest, I'd recommend a West Ham defender over De Koipa, I think, or possibly even Konsa. Aaron Ramsey, no, he's not going to start at 4.5 million. Not anytime soon. So just not really any option. He's just an enabler at 4.5. Yeah, I am considering a free hit in Game Week 2, and that's where I can get Saka, Gyökeres, and Gabriel. I think Kelleher will start, but I can't guarantee it. That's good, Arthur. Nice. That is the way to go. I'd highly recommend to everybody watching, lock in your teams right now. You don't want to leave things until the last minute. So I'm going to go back to my team. I'm going to make some changes, and yeah, after that, I'll show you some graphics one more time for those that are tuning in a little bit later. Drop a like on this video if you enjoy it or find it insightful. I've answered hundreds of questions already in the first FPL deadline stream of the season. We have hit over 10 super chats. I've gifted 5 memberships, and after the deadline closes, I'll be gifting 5 more, so you get early access to my videos, amongst many other perks like priority reply to comments. All those can be found in the description. But let's finally sort this out. Come on. Let's see if I can actually get my act together. So Watkins to Bowen isn't completely out of the question, but I'm more focused on a defender or midfielder downgrade to facilitate Pedro Porro in for Van der Ven. I'm very keen on that upgrade. I think he's worth the extra million over the Dutchman, who scored, of course, against Paris Saint-Germain, but Porro provided an assist. And I think those set-piece duties, the DEFCON, the consistency of starts will be really good facets of Pedro Porro's play, and I think he's going to be a very good option this season. So, yeah, this is what it comes down to now. And, yeah, Frimpong is a little bit of a, really exciting pick, I think, for Game Week 1. Don't like him so much for Game Weeks 2 and 3, to be fair. So that's something else I need to weigh up. But let's do something like this then. 5.5 million defender. Yeah, this is going to be a bit of a tricky one, I think. If it wasn't for that Branfoy injury, I'd be quite set on Tarkovsky and then having him, Borro, and Nico Williams or Murillo. So maybe I'll go for something like this then. So Murillo, Williams out, and then... I mean, I don't really mind Williams per se. But yeah, that is currently my thinking. Diouf for Wan-Bissaka. Yeah, so this week I could start Murillo, Pedro Porro, and a West Ham defender against Sunderland away. I mean, that's not out of the question, to be fair. But yeah, it's almost time to lock in. Caicedo is a good option in the midfield, but it's only for defensive contributions, nothing more. No, there's no Haaland in this team. I'm not ruling him out definitively, but I don't think I will go for him. Thank you very much, Carrie. I appreciate it. Watkins or Chris Wood, it's going to be Watkins without a doubt for me. He's worth the extra 1.5, and Forest have scored 1 goal in pre-season, and Nuno's comments are quite concerning. I only go for their defenders or cells in goal. Solanke could start in Game Week 1, but I'm not going to go for him. It's enough of a doubt to kind of avoid him. Yeah, Luca Dean is a doubt. Maatsen could start. A lot of different Aston Villa journalists and websites have actually put Maatsen in there, and so have I for my predicted lineup. Yeah, I was actually considering that synthesis, as you can see obviously on screen. Why not switch Frimpong for Diouf, Anderson, and then Pedro for Gyökeres? Well, I actually can't do that. Yeah, I'd still be... Wait, is it Watkins to Gyökeres? I would need an extra 1 million in the bank. I've only got 0.5 with these moves. If I keep Nico Williams over Murillo, then yes, I'd be closer to it, but still 0.5 million off. And to be honest, I prefer having Joao Pedro at the moment than Victor Gyökeres, I think. That's really because of the fixtures. And Gyökeres is still a good option. I think he can score against United and Leeds, but yeah, the first 6 games in general are quite tough for the Gunners. But yeah, that's what I've currently gone for. Yeah. So yeah, just locking in the final things. I think I'm going to do this for now. Go for Cody Gakpo as a bit of a differential. That surely means Wirtz is going to score. We know how that ends. I kind of know it already, but I'm still doing it just to facilitate this Pedro Porro geezer. So, as you can see, Van der Ven, Wirtz, and Anderson to Porro, Gakpo, and Reinders is what I've currently gone for here. So yeah, that's probably a good idea for another poll. I'm going to do that now. Let's see if I can actually start it. Okay, so... Van der Ven and Wirtz. Porro and Gakpo. To be fair, I think I know how that's going to end, but let's see what you lot think. For now, I'm going to click confirm, I think. Yes. And the website hasn't crashed. That's a good sign. Reinildo. First on my bench. Sure about that, buddy. Yeah, that is my current team at the moment. Lager with the curious eyes, I guess. Maybe scared. I'm not sure if Williams will play more than Aina, but for defensive contributions, I think he is a superior asset. Who's the best 5.5 mid? In my opinion, it's Reinders. That's what I've currently gone for. I still like Anderson. Caicedo's decent, and you've got a few others where that came from, but Reinders is my preference. Nico, Porro, or Murillo and Romero. Nico Williams and Porro. Indai or Kudus. I'm going for Ndai at the moment. Williams to Van de Ven. I think you go bullish with Spurs defense. Maybe. It's just I don't like doubling up on Spurs defensively. And you look at Man City away in Game Week 2. I mean, I've got Reinildo against Burnley and I've got Konsa away to Brentford. It's not too bad, but yeah, I'd rather diversify my defense, I think. If I have, like, for example, Sells-N-Go and Murillo in defense, whilst it's not ideal, I'm not completely against that. But to have 2 of the 5 defender slots on Spurs, I'm not really there. Borro's only in this team for the attacking potential, the DEFCON, the combination of everything. Despite Romero and Van de Ven scoring against PSG, I just don't really rate them as FPL assets as much. Yeah, Nonto might be a bit underrated, to be honest, but he wasn't particularly great in the Championship last season. I'm going for Ndai at the moment. That doesn't mean Kudus is terrible or that he should be avoided. For Game Week 1, he's arguably better, but yeah, he hasn't shown too much in pre-season, in my opinion. I mean, to be fair, both of them haven't done so much in terms of goals and assists. Yeah, the top 5.5 defenders, that's a lot. I'd say Murillo, Porro, Tarkovsky, Munoz, and yeah, the 5th one is maybe what I'm struggling with. Probably Milenkovic, yeah. That's my top 5. I think Doku could start in Game Week 1, but he's not someone I'd invest in FPL. How close is Tarkovsky to Porro? I think he's relatively close, and to be honest, earlier in the summer, I ranked Tarkovsky higher, but I also think with Spurs showing some good signs in pre-season, not against Bayern, but more so against PSG, Arsenal, etc., yeah, I think Porro looks very appealing. And also, the big concern with Tarkovsky and Everton is the injury to Branthwaite. That is the main concern there. Saka for Palmer. Yeah, that is true. That has crossed my mind as well. It also gives you a Game Week 2 captaincy option. That is a very good point, actually. Thank you, Paredes, for gifting 10 memberships. That is massively appreciated. So thank you very much for the support there. It really goes a long way to supporting the channel. So thank you very much. You and Napstars have done a lot of great work for the community. Chris Wood is still decent, but I actually started last season with him in Game Week 1. I'm not looking at him at all this time. I just think Forest are looking quite poor offensively. They lost Elanga, and they need more signings in that forward line, I think. And we've also got Igor Jesus, who could take some minutes off him, even though Chris Wood should start. So, yeah, I think there are better options where that came from. Jared Bowen at 0.5 more, Joao Pedro, even Mateta, I'd rank higher than Chris Wood this season. Yeah, nice emojis there by Lager. So Arthur Nice, Benjamin, Linus J, Nick N, Liam Toy, Javier Garcia, Adams, Josip Bilic, Goldhead, FPL Fan 25. Enjoy those memberships for an entire month, courtesy of Paredes, who has been supporting the channel for a long time. And yes, we've got less than 50 minutes left. Lock in your teams. Well, Wan-Bissaka has much higher ownership, VE portfolio. I just think people are maybe keen on a differential. Diop has much lower ownership. He's also showing attacking potential. He got some goal contributions in a recent preseason friendly, so all of that plays a part in this kind of shift towards Diop, but it doesn't mean he's more popular than Wan-Bissaka. That's certainly not the case. Whatever happens, happens. Just enjoy it. I mean, that is great advice, to be fair, but not everyone sees it that way. The Game Week 2, Watkins or Gyökeres? Gyökeres. Stuart Diop or Konsa? Diop. Hi, Dylan. Bruno or Wirtz for Game Week 1? Throw in Wirtz. Best 4.5 defenders. One of Wan-Bissaka, Diop. I think Wan-Bissaka long-term might be the one. And don't even underestimate Kilman. For defensive contributions, he's very solid. I also think Konsa, he's my favourite at the moment. That's why he's in my team. Van de Ven, I guess. And by the way, let's see. So this was my team before. And this is my team now. So a few changes there. Let's see what the poll is saying. Yeah, Van de Ven and Wirtz is winning. Okay, I did not expect that, to be fair. I really didn't expect that. So it's a bit of love for Van de Ven right now. What's his ownership? Oh, that is even more template than Pedro Porro. Interesting. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is tinker around, see if I can get to Wirtz from Cody Gakpo. But that isn't a guarantee. So, Palmer to Saka is a decent shout to make that happen. But if not, yeah, Murillo to Nico Williams isn't enough. I would need one more change if I wanted to get from Gakpo to Wirtz. Maybe Ndiaye back to Anderson and going for that 5.5 million structure, but yeah, I'm a bit against that, to be fair. Wirtz, Larson, or Bowen, Mitoma? That's a good question. I'm going to go for Wirtz and Larson. Yeah, exactly, Arthur. Big up to Paredes there. So, Ved, if you want to see my chip strategy, check out that video, the chip strategy guide, and I did reference it earlier in this stream. Great showing, bro. Good luck for the season. Thank you, Carl, and all the best for Gameweek 1. Diouf or Van de Ven? I prefer Diouf, I think. It's a tough one, and West Ham's short-term fixtures aren't great. I think Spurs have superior fixtures. My concern with Van de Ven is the starts and the rotation and stuff like that, but I did have him in my pre-deadline stream team. He obviously scored the other day. But yeah, it's a tough one, I think. Ultimately, with Spurs, I want to cover them defensively with Pedro Porro. I wouldn't start Walker Peters. I think it'll be Diouf on the left-hand side and Wan-Bissaka on the right. I don't think Marlon is... Well, look, he's worth a punt, I guess, but if you don't think he starts, then you just avoid, right? And there is a chance he doesn't. We could see Tielemans play as the attacking midfielder. We could also see Guesson play on the right-hand side. I think that will happen eventually. I don't think Daniel Marlin will get enough starts to maybe repay that faith. That's why I've gone off him. Well, Gavardio is red flagged now in FPL, and he didn't feature in the last preseason game. And yeah, I don't expect him to play against Wolves. And it looks like he's not even on the bench now. Or he won't be. Good luck as well. Somonanth. Is that Van and Gakpo? Van de Ven and Gakpo? Oh, is that for the... Oh, for the poll. Okay, that's something a little bit different, I guess. Fair enough. But I'm quite surprised by some of the results today when it comes to this. Very surprising. But yeah, Wirtz is the one I really want to get. Frimpong and Ndiaye or Pedro Porro and Rodgers? I would go for Porro and Rodgers. But that's a good question. I do like that. Both are really good duos, and yeah, I've currently got the first duo and Pedro Porro, actually, so I've got 3 of those 4 players in my team. So, if there are any other updates that I haven't actually covered here, then let me know, like Gavardio being red flagged. So I think that was based on a Pep Guardiola comment earlier. But yeah, we are approaching the end of this deadline stream, or at least we are approaching the deadline. This will still go on for a little bit longer since we have hit the Super Chat goal, and there's still more to talk about. So, yeah, let's see what happens there. Solanke or Bowen? I'd go for Bowen. I don't even think Solanke is a certain starter in Gameweek 1. I've kind of gone to him, and obviously in the favour of Richarlison there. Ndiaye or Caicedo Gameweek 1, it's going to be Ndiaye for me. ARX versus team. Yeah, a few people with Dorgu, which is quite surprising. I also talked about this in my rating your teams video. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable team. I do like the look of most of those picks. I'd question Dorgu a little bit, and I had Van de Ven, and I was really insistent on going up to Pedro Porro. That was the way I was going about it, to be quite honest with you. So yeah. Yeah, exactly that, Wally. I appreciate the reminder. Rice is a good pick, but the fixtures are a big problem, of course. He is fixture-proof, per se. But yeah, I think... let's see. I see no one is jumping on Jack Grealish. Is he eligible to play? No, he can play. I think he'll be on the bench maximum. I don't think he starts from the get-go. That's the way I see it. Nico Williams to start or Anderson in the midfield? Nico Williams. They made the deadline 30 minutes earlier than normal, right? No. I don't think so. It's always 1 hour and a half, right? Before... I mean, it used to be different. You know, back in the day, it was 1 hour before kickoff, but to kind of combat league lineups and stuff like that, they changed it. But no, that's not the case. The game's at 8. The deadline's at 6:30 in the UK, so yeah, 1 hour 30. We've been used to it now for a year or two. Dorgu or Dallo? Dorgu will start. Dallo won't be the first choice right wing back. So it will be Amad Diallo there and Dorgu on the left. Yeah, Ramolis, Sunderland have better fixtures. I've also got Dubravka already. I don't want to double up on Burnley defensively. Salah captain as covered before. Haaland is second. And yes, W only. I said in die. I prefer him over Caicedo, which you can also see in my squad. Sanchez, Dubravka, Nico Williams, Van de Ven, Diouf, De Kuyper, Alex Moreno, Salah, Gakpo, Saka, Palmer, Baleba, Joao Pedro, Watkins, Mark Guiu. It's looking solid. If you want a rating, a number, I'd say a solid 8. A few picks I'd question, like De Kuyper. I wouldn't go for Alex Moreno. You definitely want to change that to one of the Burnley or Sunderland defenders if you want that price point, like Esteve or Reynildo Mandava. I think that's the weak link of your team, your defensive line. You've taken all the money out of that position and put it in the midfield, which obviously has resulted in Salah, Saka, and Palmer, which is quite unique. But yeah, Baleba, I'm not a big fan of FPL-wise. Mark Guiu is just there for the price. So yeah, starting some of those players every week is a little bit... Yeah, I'd probably say a 7 out of 10, in my opinion. I would highlight De Kuyper, but especially Alex Moreno. Alex Moreno and Baleba are the two ones you probably want to change, in my opinion. Best captain is Salah, as talked about multiple times. Bruno and Borro or Wirtz and Aït-Nouri. Yeah, as a duo, I'm actually going to say Wirtz and Aït-Nouri for Gameweek 1, but it's a very close one. Thank you, That Air, and I wish you the best of luck as well for this season. Yeah, I guess so, Wei Seng. The points could also help a lot. You know, a good start would certainly not go amiss. That's certainly for sure. So yeah, I don't think there are any updates on Twitter. We're not going to get any predicted lineups, surely not, or leaked lineups. So yeah, I think that kind of goes without saying. Okay. Will Beto start for a Gameweek 1 bench boost? It's possible. The thing is, with Tierno Barry, and there are reports of David Moyes and Beto falling out, that is something to maybe think about. But I just don't think Beto's a long-term option for you. I wouldn't really go there. He might do the job for you in Gameweek 1, but yeah, ultimately, I'm not a big fan, to be quite honest. Gakpo squad, let's gather here. It's not locked in, and actually, I'm trying to see if I can go back to Florian Wirtz, but yeah, surely it's not too bad going for Florian Wirtz. Yeah, I agree, Salah. If there are any late changes, do it now. The site could crash. Have the app ready on your phone or, you know, all that stuff, just in case. I think that is a very solid piece of advice. But yeah, I'm going to probably stick with this, I think. So Sanchez in goal, Frimpong, Murillo, Pedro Porro, Salah, Gakpo, Reinders, Palmer in die, Watkins, and Joao Pedro. That is where I've currently kind of just lied, I guess. And the bench, Dubravka, Reynildo, Konsa, and Mark Guiu. I do have 2 Sunderland players, which I'm not a big fan of. But yeah, also doubling up on Burnley defensively. Not exactly ideal. But yeah, that is pretty much it. I mean, is there anything else I really want to do with this team? Just Gakpo to Wirtz, I guess. I'm happy with most of it. I don't think I'm going to be making a huge late change of like downgrading one of Salah or Palmer to then upgrade Reinders in this midfield or stuff like that, or in die, and then going to Bruno Fernandes and Saka. So yeah, I think I'm going to stick with this sort of structure for now anyway. Yeah, Konsa or Juve, please. I prefer Konsa long term, and I was very clear about that. So what I was saying is, for Gameweek 1 specifically, I think Diouf has the better chance of a clean sheet, but I've got Konsa in my squad, and the reasoning is the kind of long-term factor of it. Yeah, Van Dijk is a solid option. He's probably the one you want to go for beyond the first 4 to 6 game weeks. I think Frimpong is more of a punt, actually, at this price point. Triple captain Salah active, all the best. I'm looking to triple captain him in Gameweek 14, actually. That Air says going back and forth with Diouf, Reinders, and Richards Adingra. Thoughts? Yeah, from those duos, I'd go for Diouf and Reinders. Good luck, Dylan. Who would you captain? Gakpo, Ollie, or Bowen? It would be Bowen. Watkins will be just behind, and then Gakpo third. But yeah, really good picks And you need to get it spot on, of course, if you aren't captaining one of the big hitters like Palmer, Salah, or Haaland. Thoughts on Gyökeres over Watkins? I like it for Game Week 2. Not so much for Game Week 1, to be fair. I just think Watkins has a good fixture against Newcastle. It's a good time to play them. Yeah, Borro to Van de Ven. Yeah, you're still saying that. I mean, I literally just made that switch to Borro. I'm not completely against it, but yeah, I think I'm going to stick with Pedro Borro here. I'm with you on no Bruno. Look, he's still a quality option. He scored against Arsenal a few months ago at Old Trafford. He's fixture-proof. He's on penalties, DEFCON, you name it. But yeah, I'd rather go for the Liverpool midfielders, actually. And Gakpo is a little bit of a differential this way, and I'm quite keen on it, actually. I mean, one other thing I was considering, actually, is you know, if I decide to do Borro to Van de Ven, not only could I do Gakpo to Wirtz, but instead of that, I could do João Pedro to Bowen. But yeah, I think I'm just going to stick with this, I think. It's just not worth playing around with too much, if you know what I mean. Sanchez and Saliba or Borro and Raya? I'm going to say... It's a good question. Borro and Raya. I did cover this before, Andrew. Better fixtures. I've also got Dubravka already, so if I go for Estev, that's a double up in Burnley defensively. Those are the two main reasons why. Going Rodgers over Kudus, I think he's the better pick. I really do. But yeah, that is the problem. Dylan, you have to downgrade Borro to Van de Ven for Gakpo to Wirtz. Yeah, I know that. It's one or the other, basically. And there's also a few other things I could do with that money, like João Pedro to Bowen, which I said before. Even Rangers to another 6.5 like Kudus. Who can test Gakpo's place? Well, Ekitike can play on the left-hand side. Also, Wirtz and Szoboszlai can play there. But I think Liverpool will sign another forward, and that will then potentially shift things around a little bit. Yeah, probably, Nicky. I know how that goes, to be fair. Rico Lewis looks like he could be going to Forest. Could mean Williams drops. Wow. I mean, that would be an absolute bombshell, to be fair. But yeah, we are locking in now. Literally, that is it. Let the chaos begin. I think that is a good way of summing it up. Salah's my captain. Palmer's my vice. We'll see how it goes. I've landed on this with triple Chelsea and triple Liverpool. Sanchez in goal. Frimpong, Murillo, Pedro Porro. Salah, Gakpo, Reinders, Palmer, Ndiaye, Watkins and João Pedro. And I've got Dubravka, Reinildo, Konsa and Mark Guiu on the bench. But that is it. There is no time to make any other changes. So yeah, in the end, I've decided to go for Borro over Van de Ven, which means Wirtz downgraded to Gakpo. Hopefully, it goes in my favour. 30 seconds to lock in, yeah. Obviously, that was written over 30 seconds ago. Both teams locked down 30 minutes ago. That's good. Well, why do people hardly have Saka? Because Arsenal have terrible fixtures, and a lot of people will free hit in Game Week 2, and that's where they can have Saka for the most appealing Arsenal fixture for the first 6 Game Weeks of the season. Not sure, but our deadline time difference is by 15 seconds. I mean, that's simply because there is a little bit of latency. So when I'm doing something, there's a few seconds delay when you see it. So that's pretty much it. The timer was on 6:30. So yeah, it's still going to be the same one. Triple captain Salah. I'm not against it, but my plan is to triple captain Salah in Game Week 14 against Sunderland. And I'm also open to captaining Haaland against one of those newly promoted clubs in the first half of the season. I prefer Dewsbury Hall over Sarr, but of course the Tottenham player has been in great form in pre-season. Good luck as well, the Flox 93, Lock Genius Gamer, and yes, let's hope for the best. Vidani says deadline, it is the first one of the season. Yeah, it feels weird. Dergish says Matheus Nunes and Romero or Van de Ven and Ait Nouri. I would go for Van de Ven and Ait Nouri. Good luck as well, Andrew. Locked in for Game Week 1. Woohoo! We'll see about that. Maybe I'll just log off and never play again. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Yes, we are. And there are 5 memberships on the way, so keep your eyes peeled. Like this video as well. Let's get it to, well, over 200 if we haven't done so already. I mean, surely we've done so at this point, but who knows with this game. So, yeah, we have got to over 200 likes. Just keep on plugging away at them. Let's get to 250 before the end. And like I said, there's still more to look forward to here. I'll be shifting the attention now to FPL Challenge. and we'll see how the season starts. But I've got Perry, 8 Nuri, Verts as my captain, Kudus, Joao Pedro, and Gyökeres. So if Verts, pisses me off and scores, at least I get something in FPL Challenge, even though you'd rather get them in FPL. So that is what I've currently gone for. Yeah, we'll give them 5 memberships now. So here we go. Let's see who gets them. So Harrison James, Scallion, DJ Sinclairo, Jern, and Raffle. Enjoy that membership for a month. One without Salah and Haaland, that is very bold, but I'm guessing you got Palmer in there. Probably Ollie Watkins and some decent options like Bruno Fernandes, I'm sure. Good luck, we move. Well, hopefully we do. Pranoy says, sells Virgil, Porro, Burn, Konsa, Salah, Caicedo, Rice, Palmer, Watkins, Bowen, Vicario, Gay, Mark Guiu, and McNeil. Yeah, it's a decent team. I don't think McNeil is a guaranteed starter, especially with the signing of Grealish. McNeil can play anywhere behind the striker, but yeah, I think McNeil will be on the bench more often than not. I don't like Vicario as an FPL pick. The only Spurs defender I'd recommend really is Porro. I think Van de Ven is fine for 4.5, but the injuries are a concern. Obviously, you got him already. But yeah, Vicario is one I'd question. The rest is looking really good. Even Caicedo for the DEFCON. Good luck as well, Akraf. Fingon, welcome. I have Rodon instead of Estev. For Gameweek 1, it looks much better than Estev, but yeah, I think longer term I'd rather have the French centre-back, to be fair. At least for the first 8 game weeks, I guess, first 10 game weeks, but yeah, both of them have tough fixtures, especially Burnley. I didn't have enough time to put Gakpo in. Well, if you still got Verts, though, it might be a blessing in disguise. We know how it goes. Last season, Game Week 1 got 39 points. Hope this Game Week is much better. Yeah, I think you'll get much better this time around, that's for sure. I don't want to jinx myself, but I typically have a strong start in Game Week 1. We'll see in the reaction stream this weekend how that goes. But yeah, it's really after Game Week 2 for some reason. That's where things kind of go a bit weird for me. Between Game Week 3 to 8 and then a wild card, then I maybe make back some ground. But that is what I want to kind of lock in this season and try to, be competitive and not have these massive dips like I typically get around Game Week 3 or 4. Good luck as well, Wei Seng. No worries about that. And obviously you are in a completely different time zone, so it's difficult to join in. Watkins or Bowen in the long term? Watkins. MM21 says, hi Dylan, can you make a plan of chip strategy? It's already on the channel, mate. I mean, let's see, could I do it now and show you quickly? Do I have the chip strategy here? Let's see. So, I don't think I've got the chip strategy thing here. But yeah, there is a video on it. If you just check out that chip strategy video, I made it a few days ago whilst I was traveling. Yeah, so I'd highly recommend you check it out. I break it down into the best time to use the wildcard, free hit, bench boost, triple captain for the first half and the second half of the season. But yeah, if I can, very quickly, I'll see if I can get the slides on screen for you. But it's not really a... Oh wow, it's not even letting me... What the hell is this? Yeah, I don't think I can do that. Alright, yeah, I just say check out the chip strategy video. I think that's the best thing. It's not too long anyway. So yeah, it should be a nice watch for you. And it's got my own plans in there at the moment. The bench boost is what I'm kind of least sure about. I think Game Week 1 for a lot of people makes sense and you kind of get rid of it early. But in my case, I'll aim to use it still quite early on in the campaign, but obviously not in Game Week 1, of course, as you just saw. Wildcard, I'm looking at Game Week 8, that sort of window. Game Week 13 is also a possibility, but I'm more looking at a bit earlier there. And for the triple captain, Game Week 14, Salah and Haaland are the priorities for that booster. And for the free hit, Game Week 2 is a serious consideration for me, especially to target that Arsenal versus Leeds fixture. So that's my current plan, but check out that video for the full analysis. Mukiele signed for Sunderland, new right back, Game Week 2 option. Yeah, potentially. I mean, there's a lot of signings that are still going to take place over the next couple of weeks. So up until Game Week, 4 really, when the transfer window closes is still going to be a bit chaotic. All the best for FPL players. Yes, have a good FPL season, everyone. And thanks, Dylan. Likewise, Transon. Good luck, Pratik. I chose Rangers because at 5.5 million, I think he can offer decent attacking potential. And I think he'll start most games for Man City. But it is a bit punty. I do recognise that. And yeah, maybe at some point I'll start tinkering a little bit and changing a few pieces. It might require a downgrade in my defence. I have gone quite expensive with that position. Yeah, surely not Crown. Surely they haven't. Yeah, this is not Club World Cup Fantasy where they've... Well, in that case, they logged in early. If you played that game, you will know what I'm on about. But yeah, we are officially logged in. I don't think that is up for debate. I think the website's completely crashed. Has it crashed? Might have. I'm refreshing another browser I've got, and it's not looking good. Let's put it that way. Yeah, nothing's working at the moment. It doesn't even have the message, saying that the game is updating. So there you go. But yeah, 10 memberships have been gifted by me, and also 10 more by Paredes, so big up to you. And yeah, it's been a very fun deadline stream. Hopefully the fun happens during the weekend, though, with the points. That is what you really want to have. And yeah, Lager also said best Man City defender. Yeah, for me it's Nuri. I just saw the super chat, so apologies for that, Lager. And there was also one by Keith. For some reason, they didn't show up for me, so that's amazing. But yeah, I'm quite bullish on Nuri compared to the other City defenders. And Gavardio, it's kind of surprising, but he's not even an option for Gameweek 1. Who would have thought that after being the highest scoring defender last season? Keith says, stayed out of the Club World Cup as a break, but I'm ready for FPL and UCL Fantasy to be fun now. Hopefully you are too. Yeah, that is the plan. Yeah, maybe obviously the last couple of weeks, even on holiday, I've been kind of focusing a lot on the content and the graphics and getting things ready. But yeah, I'm more or less ready for the new season, as ready as I can be, and it should be fun. UCL Fantasy, of course, I'll be making content for that very soon. Some of the pricing seems very similar from what I've seen. I've just skimmed through it, but I will be talking about it very shortly. So wow, it just closed now. Oh dear. The app is allowing you to make transfers and subs for Gameweek 1 still open. I'll check. I'll check if that's the case. Wow, it's not like FPL to have dodgy deadlines and transfers. Yeah, no, when I try to go on Fantasy on the app, it now says it looks like there is a problem. And yeah, just everything is locked, I think. So maybe that's their response to people taking advantage of the extended deadline, if we even had one. What is it with Gameweek 1 or Matchday 1 deadlines having something a bit iffy about them? Good night as well, Wally. Yeah, I'm locked out of the site, Stevie. How do you know which players are new signings in FPL Challenge? Well, I just know based on my research. So Perry obviously signed from Lyon, Nuri from Wolves. I've got Florian Wirtz, of course, from Bayer Leverkusen, Kudus from West Ham, Joao Pedro from Brighton, and Gyökeres from Sporting. There's no option. Actually, yeah, there is a thing. Okay, that's me flexing my knowledge. Let's see. I'm going to change it to full screen so you can see the thing here. So right underneath, where it says search for player or players and, sorted by and the maximum price, there's a box here that says show players who are new signings. So when you click it, in every single position, you'll see the summer signings, and those will score double points in FPL Challenge this week. So yeah, that is the answer to your question. I'm sure you can do the same in the app as well. So yeah, that should be a decent answer to your question. And there are a few things I could change here. Maybe just pick a more reliable goalkeeper and forget the summer signing thing. But yeah, I think I'm quite happy with this setup. Your keeper's very nice. Yeah, nice one, Twisted Parky. Good luck, Dylan. Captain Haaland and don't own Salah. Can't wait for the season. Yeah, it is bold. I mean, even if it doesn't work in Gameweek 1, I wouldn't just panic and then take a -4 and sell Haaland to go Salah. Be patient and stick with what you have for at least a few Gameweeks and give it time. Thank you, Kilda. Last season we had 11 million players. Things weren't this bad, says Fedani. Oh yeah, that is true. For a second I thought you were talking about the pricing. Girona losing 2-0, says Romulus. Well, yeah, they have kind of regressed from a few years ago, unfortunately. They sold a lot of key players. Mojito says, I almost went back to my Gyökeres and Reinders picks over Marmush and Fulkrug. I was considering Gyökeres for a second and then doing Ndai to Rodgers, for example, but yeah, I'm quite keen on Watkins. Fenerbahce, good to see you. First 11. You've got Pape Sarr in there. Interesting. Not a big fan of Jed Spence long term, but for the first 3-4 game weeks, maybe even a little bit longer than that, he should be fine. You've got Rodgers and Tielemans, which is also a nice differential. And a strong bench. You could maybe bench boost that, to be fair, even though Dorgu and obviously Agba do have poor fixtures. Well, they all do. But I think Strand Larsen could still get something against Man City. Good luck, Kevy. Best of luck as well. The deadline was open for 6 minutes that I counted past the deadline. Wow. FPL learning from the Club World Cup admin. People did mention this when it happened in the Club World Cup, and it seems like it has happened in reality. Terry says, rate this team and advice. I'm not a big fan of Chris Wood. I started last season with him, but I never had that sort of intention or thinking. This time round, the bench is fine. They're bench options and, they're cheap enablers. I think Konsa's the best, or one of the best 4-point family defenders. Saka, Palmer, Salah is a nice, I think, differential having all three of them in terms of EO, effective ownership. So I do like your starting 11, but Chris Wood is the one I'd be mainly concerned about. Hello, Dylan. I forgot to join the mini league. Yeah, you can still join once the game actually refreshes again. So don't worry about that. You can join at any point, but obviously the preference is to join earlier. All your points are counted from Game Week 1. Josh says I went for Nico Williams instead of Milenkovic, so I can do Piru to Giu and Pedro to Gyökeres if both players stop playing. Yeah, that's fair. I think Nico Williams was a serious consideration for me, but in the end I've gone for Murillo here, so we'll see how that turns out. The Liverpool lineup should be out in a minute, I think, but it's not out yet. I don't think so anyway. But once it is, I'll cover that, go for some last questions, and then call it a day, I think. Or a night, evening, wherever you're watching from. Let's see. Okay, so I've got Liverpool, and I mean, if I see Gakpo on the bench, I might just the stream straight away. So we'll see what happens in the next few seconds. They do typically release them 1 hour, 15 minutes before the deadline. So yeah, once that Liverpool confirmation is out, I will be going through the lineups. I think Flash Score can also be quite quick with them as well. Let's see. Now they've still got the predicted ones here. Okay, yeah. I've got the predicted lineup. No, not predicted one. I've got the actual Liverpool lineup here. So let's go through it. And then I'll be going through Bournemouth. You should have theirs posted as well. No, they don't actually. So, yeah, Liverpool. Okay, no, they got the link. Forget that. Alisson in goal, Van Dijk, Kanate, Kirkes, Wirtz, Szoboszlai, McAllister, Salah, Gakpo, Ekitike, and Frimpong. So 3 out of 3 players start for me. 11 out of 11 in my first predicted lineup, so not a bad start. Now it's about the FPL points, really. Salah captain, I've got Gakpo and Frimpong, so I've gone for 2 Dutchmen there. And let's see about Bournemouth. What have they gone for? How many did I get wrong with their lineup? They still haven't posted anything. Once they do, I'll be going through it. But yeah, what you'd expect from Liverpool. And yeah, McAllister does start. You think João Pedro starts the next 4 to 5 games? I think so. Yeah, game predictions. I have talked about this actually already. So if we go back to it. My original one for Liverpool was 3-1. But yeah, 3-0 is what I've ended up with. Villa 3, Newcastle 2. A 2-2 draw between Brighton and Fulham. West Ham to win 2-1 away to Sunderland. Tottenham 2, Burnley 1. Wolves 0, Man City 2. Chelsea 1, Crystal Palace 0. Nottingham Forest 1, Brentford 1. Man United 2, Arsenal 2. And Leeds 1, Everton 1. You can also see my top 10 captaincy options as well. So I didn't have Gakpo in here, but he was my featured player in the heat maps. And I did have Wirtz in 6th place here, but I was quite keen on Salah, Haaland and Palmer as the 3 best options for the armband this week. And yeah, Just go to this one more time. This is the full analysis. You can see everything in one. But yeah, Gakpo was my highlighted player. Hopefully he does the business. The problem with João Pedro is they will share minutes with the lap. Well, João Pedro can play multiple positions. Yes, he won't play 90 minutes, but he should still get 60, 70 on a regular basis. And if Palmer isn't on the pitch, João Pedro should take those penalties too. Good luck as well, Kuka. I went for triple captain Salah. All the best. Club World Cup points. I don't remember the exact points, but I finished in the top 10k, and it was a decent showing in the end. And I think my thumbnail account, because I made an account to do the thumbnails, that did even better. So yeah, I mean, that was a bit of fun. But yeah, the Club World Cup was still interesting to cover. Obviously, you just saw there the clean sheet odds, the top 10 captaincy, the heat maps, and also the team weaknesses. So hopefully you enjoyed that and found it insightful. I did go through them earlier in this stream too. And what I'm going to do is get the Bournemouth lineup for the season opener between Liverpool and the Cherries. So Bournemouth should finally have their lineup out. No, they don't. I think they're waiting until 8 p.m. then, 7 p.m. to keep it a bit of a surprise maybe. Yeah, Bournemouth are, yeah, I don't know what they're doing. Let's see if I can get it up. And yeah, Bradley's not even on the bench. That's also worth saying. So the bench for Liverpool, if we go back to this. So the bench is Maradashvili, Gomez, Endo, Chiesa, Jones, Elliott, Robertson, Inouye, and Rio, the 16-year-old who impressed very much in pre-season. So yeah, that is good news for Frimpong owners, I guess. Hopefully he has a goal, assist, and clean sheet in store for us, I guess. Yeah, from an FPL perspective anyway. But yeah, I'm trying to get the Bournemouth one, and I don't see anything in terms of Bournemouth. Yeah, we're going to have to wait a little bit, I think, for the Cherries lineup. Yeah, I'm only seeing Liverpool's starting 11, which obviously I've covered. So yeah, we'll have to wait a little bit. I'll have to wait for the Bournemouth one. I'm interested to see because it might look quite ugly, that starting 11. So this is my final team for those that are unaware. In terms of my starting 11, Reinders is a bit of a meh pick maybe. I'm quite happy with the rest of it. I think it's a decent setup, but yeah, I'll probably be tinkering throughout the weeks and not saving transfers as ideally I'd want to do. And instead I'll be using all of them and being trigger happy with the moves. I was so sure I was going Haaland, but panicked and switched to Salah the last second. Now I'm feeling like I should have gone with my gut. Well, that's just like a 50-50 thing, you know. You know, when you have like such a big decision to make and it completely changes your structure, you're going to have those kind of regrets and also second thoughts. I wouldn't really pay too much heed to it. And as I mentioned to someone else earlier, you know, obviously you went for Salah now, but let's say he blanks and Haaland goes off. Just stick with what you have for now. I know Salah faces Newcastle and Arsenal, but yeah, I think it's very important to be patient with players, especially of that quality that could always bite you if you ended up selling. So I checked SofaScore, which is recommended by some viewers. So Bournemouth have gone for Petrovic, Truffert, Senesi, and Diakate. So I got that right in the updated lineup. Smith, Adams, Scott, Semenyo, Brooks, Tavernier, and Evanilson. So just saying, I mean, look, let me go to the predicted lineups now. And I actually need to get the thing. Oh, yeah, it's already there. It's in the lineups here. I'm going to skip straight to Bournemouth. Just say, look, the proof is in the pudding. I couldn't do that in a second. So, yeah, that was my final lineup for Bournemouth. So that was 11 out of 11. And then guess what? For Liverpool, 11 out of 11. Just saying, you know. When you get it right, you got to promote it, show off a little bit, flex your muscles. But yeah, I'll take that. Hopefully I can get more of these predicted lineups right. And we'll see if people want to see more of these throughout the season. But it's more of a Game Week 1 thing as we get new signings, new managers, systems, and people are maybe joining FPL for the first time, wanting to know the best FPL picks and stuff like that. But there you go. Liverpool and Bournemouth, the lineups have been confirmed and talked about. Let's now discuss FPL Challenge again, seeing what you lot think about that game as well. I've been quite settled on this team. So I'm going for 1 defender, 2 midfielders, and 2 forwards. I'm going for Perry and goal. All of them are summer signings to fully maximize the instant impact challenge this week. So any new player will get double the amount of points. So that is where I've kind of gone about it. So thank you to those that have supported the channel. And there are still 200 people in the building. So if you want to support me even further, then check the links in the description below. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And consider becoming a patron or channel member. I did give 10 memberships earlier today, and so did Paredes. And every month I'll be gifting 10 memberships as well. It has been a while, and even though I've been posting content regularly, this is the first deadline stream in what, over a month? When you look at the Club World Cup, the first FPL stream in what, 3 months nearly. Time really does fly. And of course, I've been doing a lot of FPL videos in the meantime. I kind of panicked. I didn't know what the fudge else to do. I mainly wanted Rodgers, but wanted Borderell and Murillo also, and to keep Munoz, but then got Cucurella. Yeah, I also had very similar deliberations and stuff about my choice of midfielder. If I go for Rodgers, do I go for Borderell and Gakpo Wirtz? So yeah, ultimately it's a lot of overthinking, and it's best to be very clear and decisive when it comes to FPL, and sometimes I haven't been decisive enough, I think. You don't want to overthink too much. Mitrovic or Kane for the captaincy. My team, millions of changes, but sells Dubravka, Murillo, Borro, Cucurella, Konsa, Esteve, Wirtz, Salah, Tielemans, Palmer, Watkins, Mateta, and Mark Guiu. I like the look of that. I really do. What do you think? I am sad of no Rodgers. Yeah, but you just can't cover them all, really. In an ideal world, you'd go for Rodgers over Tielemans, I guess, and then you'd be really happy with it. So you tripled up on Villa, and I was considering that myself. Yeah, I do like your squad. There's not much that I'd really pick apart there. What are your thoughts, if any, on De Kuiper from Brighton? Well, I did cover him in my summer signings video. I think he's a decent 4-point family and pickup, but Brighton's fixtures are quite poor, and I don't think Brighton will keep many clean sheets there. His last preseason game performance was quite good. Also what happens to Pirlo now that DCL is signed? I think Pirlo will go to the bench and not be a regular star for Leeds United, which is a shame because he's been in great preseason form with 4 goals, I believe, and he's also, yeah, he's going to start in Gameweek 1, and he could do fairly well against Everton, but I think Calvert-Lewin will take a lot of minutes off him. So, possible Chris Wood replacement at a similar price. Well, apart from the obvious Joao Pedro, I'd say Mateta would be one of them, and Dominic Solanke over time. Lager says, gosh, this is amazing. Easiest lineup to predict. All right, Jesus, you absolute hater. I hope you're ready for Sesko and Ahmad. Yeah, whatever. You support United, man. You finished 15th. Why did Chelsea even sign Joao Pedro when they had the lap? Well, to be fair, Joao Pedro is a bit of a different player and striker. He can play as a left winger, second striker, or attacking mid. And yeah, he can just play multiple positions. It's more of a question of the lap, you know. He's probably signed for Chelsea with guarantees of a lot of game time, and now he's going to have to earn his place into the 11 because Joao Pedro has obviously made such a big claim to it. 2-0 down and a red card for Girona. Typical City Group team. Bit harsh. Liverpool didn't disappoint. Yes, at least before the game has started. Let's see what happens during it, but I'm fairly sure they'll win quite comfortably. I'm feeling 3-1 or 4-2 for tonight in favour of Liverpool. My original prediction was 3-1, but I then changed it to 3-0. I'm kind of hoping from an FPL perspective it is 3-0. I'm not in the Dylan Einer League. I'll look to join that very soon. I make a last-minute call to sell Frimpong for making money for Wirtz. Hope it works. Oh, nice little rhyme, I guess. Yeah, I was also considering that myself. Who did you buy, though, for Frimpong, if you're still here? What happened to FPL? No idea. No idea whatsoever. Akraf says, I went with the bench boost with this team. What do you think? Sells Pickford, Aït-Nouri, Frimpong, Romero, Nico Williams, De Kuiper, Salah captain, Rutter, Gakpo, Reinders, Sarr, Gyökeres, Bowen, Joao Pedro. That's a nice balance. I think with my team, for example, I've got a lot of triple ups there. I mean, you've got one in Liverpool, but apart from that, I think you've evenly balanced things a little bit. Double in Brighton is interesting. Not something I'd recommend necessarily, but I think Jorginho Rutter is a nice punt. We're going to buy an island soon and build it amazing. But yeah, thank you, Chase. Yeah, SofaScore did have the lineup. That's the way I covered it. Zazie says, Dylan. Yeah, thanks, bro. So yeah, I'm guessing that's in relation to the lineups. You're welcome. I actually really enjoy the predicted lineup videos. Yeah, I mean, it does take a lot of time in terms of research and stuff, especially when I was, going through all the preseason friendlies, finals, and the goal scorers and assisters. Even FPL assists were also talked about. But yeah, to do it weekly, I know I tried it last season for the first few game weeks, and I think obviously the reception to them obviously goes down naturally as we familiarize ourselves more with the teams and stuff like that. But yeah, if possible, I'll do one for Game Week 2, depending on the reception. But yeah, it was fun to make as well. Yeah, King from Fulham first bench. Yeah, I think he'll start, to be fair. Well, Beardy, I wanted to go back to Verts, but basically I went to Botterill from Van der Ven, so it was just really a case of that. They just showed it on Sky TV. Thank you, Alex Gibb. Dylan Island, here we come. Dylan, what's your predicted final table? Well, what I do with my friends is actually have one like at the very beginning and then do one after the summer transfer window closes. So I'm just going to refer back to that one, which I made a few months ago. So this was before we signed Viktor Gyökeres, which probably plays a part in what I think. Can I get the... Where the hell is this? Okay, so my rough predicted table is very rough. Is Sunderland last, Burnley in 19th, and Leeds in 18th. Wolves 17th, Brentford in 16th, West Ham in that bottom six, Everton, Nottingham Forest in 13th, Fulham in 12th, Crystal Palace 11th. Okay, so yeah, I put Bournemouth 10th. I probably would change that now. I think I'd put them significantly lower. Brighton 9th, Aston Villa 8th. I still think they arguably have a better team than Spurs, for example. But I put Spurs 7th, Man United 6th, Chelsea 4th, Newcastle 5th, Arsenal 3rd, Liverpool 2nd, and Man City 1st. But at the time as well, Rodri wasn't injured. And my kind of logic was if Rodri is fit, and with those City signings, I think City would be my favourites to win the league. But yeah, that's my kind of rough prediction. I would change a few things now. And yeah, a lot of things I've definitely, well, just tweaked and things have modified over the last couple of weeks and months. So yeah, that was made, what? Yeah, in late June. So yeah, maybe I have a bit of credit in the bank there because that's almost 2 months ago. A lot has happened since then. Hey Dylan, I got Searles, Wan-Bissaka, Williams, De Kuiper, Reinders, Salah, Palmer, Wirtz, Mateta, Watkins, Gyökeres. Yeah, I like that team. De Kuiper is not someone I'm a big fan of, but at 4.5 million, he's worth a punt, and he's got a bit of attacking potential. Yeah, but people keep saying this about Salah. I don't think he's finished. He might drop off and not produce what he did last season, but that's natural after probably his best ever campaign. After Wirtz and Ekitike, will the number of goals for Salah be reduced? It's possible, and that'll be the hope for non-Salah owners and captainers. Liverpool lineup, yeah, thank you very much, Carl. Brentford have agreed a club record deal with Bournemouth. Yeah, exactly. I referenced it once in this video, and I think Dango will start as the right winger for Brentford over Fabio Carvalho. Any potential team that will shock this season? Yeah, you do ask this in every single competition, which is fair. Team to surprise, maybe Man United with the lack of Europe. I mean, yeah, from 15th or wherever they finished to 5th, 6th, I think that would be a massive boost. The other surprise... Oh, that's a difficult one. Surprise. Maybe someone doing badly as well. Yeah. It's a good question, to be fair. Maybe Aston Villa again. Finishing in the Champions League space, or even though they don't have the finances and obviously the PSR concerns, so they are a bit limited. Salah is not injured. I mean, I don't know what you're saying there. Come on, let's not be bad. I have no kids, Papa J, but thank you. Thoughts on Harry Wilson? He's a nice punt. He got 5 goals in pre-season, and Yeah, I don't really mind that, but you've also got King at 4.5, who could be a nice enabler for you as your fifth midfielder. And we've also got Reinders and a few other options there. I mean, look, maybe Harry Wilson is the one to go for, but he isn't exactly my top pick. And I do think over time he could be benched, and he has had a few injury problems over the years. João Pedro is surprisingly good for Chelsea. Yeah, but it is obviously, he's only just started, and we'll see how it goes, but so far it's looking good. No Salah or Haaland locked, says Harrison James. Sells Dubravka, Cucurella, Murillo, Borro, Richards, Esteve, Palmer, Bruno, Wirtz, Gakpo, Rota, JP, Watkins, and Evanilson. Yeah, really good stuff. Richards is a decent option for defensive contributions, Esteve as well. And I do like your defensive line. I've gone for something similar, but instead of Cucurella, I've gone for Frimpong. And obviously I've gone for Robert Sanchez in goal. But yeah, I do like your team. Bruno Fernandes as well is a solid pick. No Salah or Haaland I see, but you've got a lot of good options and I think a lot of benching headaches, especially offensively. Yeah, Leonardo, I'm just stating a fact to be fair. Anonymous says opinion on Gyökeres and Watkins, no Salah and Haaland. That is a nice combination, very differential. It's tough going without Salah and Haaland, mainly from a captaincy perspective. And you look at Gameweek 1, for example, I think there's a massive gap between those two and the rest, and that probably includes Cole Palmer too. But yeah, I think Gyökeres and Watkins is, a really solid front line, two of the best forwards you can buy. Welcome Zazie, good to see you. Twisted Parky says Liverpool 3, Bournemouth 0, Aston Villa 2-1, Brighton 2-1, West Ham 1-0, Spurs 2-1, City 3-1, Chelsea 1-1, hopefully you're right, even though I've got triple Chelsea. Forest 1-0, Arsenal 2-1, and Leeds Everton 1-1. So similar to me as well. Yeah, I'm getting asked about kids and wives and stuff like that I don't have. I'm still young, I guess. Do we have any news on Jackson and where he is going? He has been linked with multiple clubs like Newcastle and stuff like that, but I think Visser will probably join them. Newcastle, that is. And I think that'll be a very good signing for them in the short term. With Jackson, I'm not even sure, but they're asking for like 80 million. I don't know how Liverpool and Chelsea, get so much money for their players, even when they're absolute flops, but there you go. I think King from Fulham could emerge as the best 4.5 later in the season. Yes, I agree with that. Fulham fans are very bullish on him. Thanks for the stream, brother. Amazing stuff as always. Thank you, Lager. Very kind of you. The game is updated. Oh, that was quite quick. Yeah, time to make early transfers. Yeah, I'd hold off a little bit because some people are going to make transfers as we speak. I do not recommend that at all. So let's go to that. FPL team, and let's see how it looks for Gameweek 2. I think it just needs a refresh. So that hasn't changed from last season where you need to sometimes refresh it a little bit. So yeah, Sanchez, Palmer, and João Pedro away to West Ham. I've got Frimpong, Salah, Gakpo away to Newcastle. Borro away to City. But yeah, that's where to be honest, I'd still be open to starting Borro, to be honest with you. But yeah, Dubravka home to Sunderland is a shout. I've also got Reinildo. So yeah, that is something I'm going to also weigh up. But yeah, Gameweek 2, I'm not going to lie, a free hit is looking very likely with the way I've set my team up for the opening Gameweek of the season. So Gameweek 2 free hit is on the cards. I'll be talking about that in a team selection video. There will be a best free hit squad and much more. There could also be a wildcard team looking a bit longer term, transfer tips, and we'll see maybe a predicted lineups for Gameweek 2. So far, 100% ratio for Bournemouth and Liverpool. We'll see how long that lasts, but yeah, inevitably there will be some wrong. I mean, football is just completely unpredictable at times. I was going to do the same after the transfer deadline. Easy says if any promoted team saved, it's potentially Sunderland. I actually think Leeds are the most likely to stay up, personally, and Sunderland have been quite poor in pre-season, but they have made some good signings, to be fair, so I can understand why you think that. Thorson, Kilman, and Tosin, they are my differential defenders. Kilman is good for defensive contributions. Tosin, Adebayo, I just don't think he starts regularly for you. He might be a transfer waiting to happen, but I think he starts in Gameweek 1 alongside Chalobah. Brentford and Wolves could be the teams in danger. Well, according to the bookmakers, they are the most likely alongside the newly promoted clubs to go down. Anonymous says, opinions on my team: Sanchez, Dubravka, Nico Williams, Porro, Dorgu, Diouf, Esteve, Wirtz, Saka, Palmer, Bruno, Reinders, Gyökeres, Watkins, Fulkrug. Yeah, I like the look of it. Not many complaints as well. I do like that team, to be fair. Fulkrug has been in good form. Not a huge fan of him, but at that price and below, he might be the best one. Can do transfers now. New style of FPL in terms of design. Yeah, I don't like the UI too much. I do prefer last season's one, to be honest. Liverpool banging it tonight. Salah hat-trick. That remains to be seen. I mean, if Salah scores a hat-trick, Gakpo and Frimpong score, then we're in business. Can you rate my team? Says ZP. I have Sanchez, Dubravka, Nuri, Tarkovsky, Diouf, Estev, Palmer, Wirtz, Gakpo, Rogers. Yeah, that was kind of similar to the last team I talked about, but I like it. My concern, well, it's not really a concern, but Tarkovsky is less appealing now because of the injury to Branthwaite. That's for sure. Apart from that, I do like your setup. It's looking very solid. Leonardo says, I got Sells, Wan-Bissaka, Williams, De Kuyper, Reinders, Salah, Palmer, Wirtz, Mateta, Watkins, Gyökeres. That's a little bit different. And yeah, De Kuyper, obviously you know my feelings about him, but yeah, I think that's looking really strong, and Mateta is underrated. Bournemouth 2-2, we will be there. I wouldn't mind that as a result, but FPL-wise, that would be bad for me, I think. Do you think Cunha would outscore the other Man U attackers over the season? I still think Fernandes scores the most, but I think Cunha will be better than the others, yeah. And I did say that in my pre-season videos, like the Best Midfielders podcast. Leeds could be the team that struggled at the start, but could turn the gear around with pressure from the Red Bull group. Yeah, to be honest, though, I think one of Sunderland or Burnley will finish bottom. That's the way I look at it. And I still think Sunderland have the worst team, despite signing Xhaka, which is obviously a brilliant bit of business. I saw Frimpong to Van der Ven, so my midfield now is Palmer, Bruno, Salah, Baleba, Wirtz. Yeah, really good midfielders. I don't like Baleba too much FPL-wise, but he can get some defcon. Defense, Van der Ven, Anderson, Nico, Williams. Yeah, Joachim Anderson at 4.5. He has been very popular, I've heard, over the last couple of days, but I haven't really been on that train, to be honest. How many teams right now are registered in FPL? Right now, 9.4 million. It's always the same, isn't it? It'll probably go up to 11, 12 million in the next couple of months. Obviously, the bulk of the player base is already signed up. Gyökeres, Ekitike, Sesko, who do you think will end the strongest this season? I'm going to say Gyökeres. I really think that. He's in the prime of his career. I also think he's just the best goal scorer of the three. But Sesko has a lot of potential. Ekitike is a lot of fun to watch, and he will have moments of magic. But I also think Liverpool will sign a striker like Isak, and that will push Ekitike out of the starting 11 or to the left wing at times, which obviously would be bad for me, having Cody Gakpo. Hey Dylan, don't know if it was just me, but I was able to make changes in the FPL app even after the deadline today. Yeah, I think it was, 6-10 minutes after the deadline, people were able to make changes. Cheers, Nihal. Thank you very much. Yes, for price rises and falls, I'd recommend live fpl.net. They're the best one. There's also Fantasy Football Hub. They're fairly decent, but I think the most reliable is live fpl.net when it comes to price rises and falls. I'll be referring to them in future streams. Obviously, they're not a factor for Gameweek 1. I think Leeds are stronger than what people are giving them credit for. Yeah, I think they're better than Sunderland and Burnley, and I think at home they're going to be very difficult to beat at times. Is there a new player option in Challenge? Yeah, there is, Twisted Parky. I covered that earlier, just below the kind of like, what was it? Price, maximum price, sort by, and stuff like that. There's a box that says, let me just show you now. Let's go to full screen. It says show players who are new signings. You click on it and it just shows you those eligible for the double points. I think it's the same with the FPL app too. But yeah, that's my current FPL challenge squad. Just don't trust Daniel Farker. Yeah, but he has done a good job with Norwich and Leeds in the Championship anyway. But it's difficult replicating that in the Premier League. But it's a very different look. I mean, it's nothing like his Norwich team with Campbell and Pookie and stuff like that. This is much more physical, and Leeds are signing these tall players like Biol. So they've got a different policy here. Harrison James says top four is going to be really exciting this year. I don't see much between Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal and City. I mean, look, maybe you're right about Chelsea. I think they're kind of assured of the top four. I still think they're a little bit off the other three. But this is the thing, though. A lot of people have this perception that those four are guaranteed to be top four. But we've had that sort of impression over the years. And then you see Liverpool drop out a few years ago. With Arsenal, it would have been, what, 8 years ago under Arsene Wenger and stuff like that, even though they got like 75 points, they finished fifth. But also, you got the top five, that qualify for the Champions League. So that is kind of the main group, so to speak. But I still think City, Liverpool, and Arsenal are a step above the rest. I think Chelsea are the fourth best team, but they can win cups, of course, here and there. Neshal says, feeling Brentford, Wolves, Burnley, Sunderland to go down. Okay, so you think Leeds stay up and one of Brentford, Wolves go down? Yeah, I could see that happening, to be fair. They don't trust Daniel Farker. Could be the first coach to be sacked. Yeah, I know, but obviously they've had all summer to do that, to be honest. But he definitely deserves a chance after the job he did last season. Yeah, there's the checkbox, Twisted Parky. I think it was the case last season too. Lager says, if Salah scores a hat-trick, I'll walk naked from my city. No Salah in my team, by the way. You don't want to have that. Yeah, just... yeah, don't do that. If Liverpool sign Isak, is the title race over? I don't think so. I think it makes them the favourites without a doubt. It doesn't mean it's over, though. Especially if Arsenal and City make some big signings. But, yeah, I think... I mean, obviously, Rodri's injury is big, but I've gone for City to win the league. We'll see what happens there. It was made almost 2 months ago. I need to give it another thought. Hartman from Burnley, 2 I rate. Just don't see who would be on the end of his assists. Well, maybe Fleming if he's actually fit from Gameweek 2 onwards. Yes, Jay Julian, you can see the leagues now. Well, maybe not, because I went to the full screen to show the box. So now, on the left-hand side, you can see the OG League, which is my FPL one, WFF0U7. The links and the auto-join, well, the auto-join link and the codes can be found in the description. And the bottom league you see is for FPL Challenge HWWQV4. So very easy to join both of them. And yeah, for every single FPL video or live stream, you will see those links in the description. Michael Keane is a decent short-term option whilst Branthwaite is out. I wouldn't recommend him though. What do you think is better, a team with Salah or Haaland? Difficult to say. I mean, I've done both, and I do prefer the Salah one, which is why I've ended up with Salah instead. But you can even have both of them have a solid 11-man squad there. Isak is a snake now. I don't know all the ins and outs. I mean, he might have had an agreement, or he told Newcastle way in advance that he wants to leave, and they kind of went back on it. So I don't want to judge that situation too much, but he is throwing his toys out of the pram. I think Gyökeres kind of did something similar, obviously refusing to train with Sporting to put pressure on them. But yeah, I think with Isak it's difficult to judge. Yeah, agree on that. Stack is a tank and a half. Yeah, I think Stack is the best Leeds United midfielder, even from an FPL perspective. He is a defensive midfielder. He can play as a centre-back, but he's also played in a more advanced role for Leeds in pre-season. You had a good mini-league for fantasy last year. I finished 5th in Australia, and that was only good enough for like 8th. Yeah, but that's still quite high in the league, to be quite honest with you. There's definitely a bit of Chelsea bias coming through on my end, says Harrison James. Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I mean, look, I think Chelsea are the most likely to challenge for the title beyond the kind of 3 favourites. There's no denying that. And Chelsea made some really good signings. They had a great summer. But I just think the goalkeeper and the defence, especially with Colwell's injury, is still lacking. They need another centre-back. I think Hato should start, actually, even though he can play as a left-back, and that's what he's been signed for. I don't know. I would like to see him alongside Cucurella and then having a top centre-back next to him, which I think Maresca wants. No problems, Jay Julian. Promoted players next week in Challenge. Yes, and I will be covering that in the next deadline stream too. Rodrigo and Donnarumma are linked to City in case Ederson and Savinho leave. Both are not travelling to Wolves tomorrow. Yeah, and apparently Savio is injured. I don't really buy that for 1 second. I think he's going Tottenham. Ederson as well. I mean, I'm not surprised. I actually thought Ederson would be on the bench and Trafford just starts in my original predicted lineups video. And I covered this, of course, in the updated version today, the final one. But yeah, I think with Trafford, that could be another weird one where he signs for City thinking he's going to be the #1 goalkeeper for many years. And then all of a sudden, you've got Donnarumma, one of the world's best goalkeepers, signing. What do you think if Arsenal went trophyless again this season? Well, it wouldn't be good enough. There's no denying that. And the pressure would change. It would mount on Arteta. And I think the fan base would shift. So this is a big season for Arteta. 1 FA Cup and 2 Community Shields isn't enough in 5 years. And even though he made such a big jump 3 years ago and it was ahead of schedule, I think Arsenal have had enough to win a league by now, especially in 2022, 2023, and then obviously the season just after that, where Arsenal were really good in the second half of the season. But yeah, I think Arsenal still need two more quality signings, like a left winger and a midfielder who can add goals and assists from that position. If they can get that, let's say theoretically Rodrigo and Eze, I think then Arsenal have the tools to win the league and stuff like that. At the moment, I think third is the most likely. Yes, Baleba only to accommodate Verts 2. I also like Murillo, Milenkovic than Nico Williams. Yeah, I also like them more than Nico Williams too, but they're all really good options, and I think Nico Williams is quite underrated when it comes to DEFCON. Stack has a nasty long shot on him too. Yeah, I think he'll be one to watch at 5 million. Very low price for him. Expectations for the season? At the moment, I would say third for Arsenal in the league. A good run in the Champions League, but ultimately quarterfinals last year, semi-finals this year. You want to then go on to win it. I know you could just say, oh, reach the final, but I don't want to lose a final there. So yeah, I'd say win the Champions League is probably like the ambitious target. But ultimately, Arteta, what he should aim to do is win a cup. Carabao is the least relevant of the trophies, but it's still something on offer. If he did something like FA Cup and Carabao double, compete for the league, good run in the Champions League, I think Arsenal fans would be on board with that, especially if Arsenal play good football and we see progress again, because last season was definitely a step back. Despite the circumstances and context, which obviously went against Arsenal, I still think Arsenal need to now win those big trophies. Forest trying to sign Douglas Luiz, Rico Lewis and Arnold Camimuedo. Yes, and obviously that sparked some concerns about Anderson as an FPL pick, but I think he will start. ¿Qué opinión tienes de Fulkrug? Es una buena opción, cuesta 6 millones, pero también yo prefiero a Bowen. Creo que vale la pena ir por alguien más caro, pero sí, creo que Fulkrug es una buena opción. Está haciendo goles en la pretemporada y para la jornada 1 es una buena opción, pero después veo la jornada de West Ham y hay partidos medio difíciles ahí. Y yo creo que Bowen es la mejor opción lejos. Anderson minutes risk, maybe easy, maybe. Notice that Newcastle will drop in form once they are in the Champions League. Not sure if they can turn things around after the Isak saga. It also doesn't help that their preseason has been terrible. They've virtually lost every game, bar the Tottenham one where they drew. So yeah, that's... I actually said Newcastle last season to finish 5th, I think. I think I did have them at 5th, so I got that right. I did have them at like 4th or 5th like a few months ago when making the predictions, but I have to say I'd probably put them lower now. Can Odegaard still be the reliable one in new season? Well, the thing is, at the end of last season, he actually had a decent assist record. I think over the last 10 games, he got 7 assists for club and country. But yeah, Odegaard is a quality player. He's definitely much better than what he's shown for Arsenal recently. He's had a few good moments in pre-season, but we need more from him, I think. Driving with the ball, creating chances, and sometimes he just needs to shoot. He did it against Southampton, and he scored a brilliant goal, right? I think, or he forced he scored a goal, and I think he also gave Marino a tap-in, if I remember correctly, against Southampton. So he just needs to shoot more often and not dilly-dally too much. He's a bit like me with my FPL team. He just keeps overthinking. Just do it, mate. Twisted Parky says, my dad's, mine, religious team: Pickford, Dubravka, Stev, Romero, Wan-Bissaka, Milenkovic, Cucurella, Palmer, Salah, Gordon, Sarr, Miley, Mark Guiu, Bowen and Watkins. It would be awkward if that outscored your normal team, but there are some good picks in there. Easy says, could Isak's price drop if he doesn't play and stuck in Newcastle until January, unless Isak and Newcastle have a gentleman's agreement to release him for the lower release clause? That is a great question. Yeah, I think Isak's price will drop naturally because having 3 years left on your contract compared to 2, and also wanting to leave and people knowing it, I think that naturally drives your price down. But I don't see Newcastle selling Isak in January unless the situation becomes untenable, like he has to go. But I think it's really a summer thing. Either this summer or the next, Isak will go. Isak says himself his time with Newcastle is over. Yes, it's a sad way because Isak was like a cult hero, even a legend in some parts of Newcastle after helping them win the Carabao Cup. I don't think they win it without him, to be honest. He was the difference maker against Arsenal and Liverpool in those semi-finals and finals. But from Isak's perspective, like leaving Newcastle after qualifying for the Champions League and also winning the Carabao, it's a good way for him to then move on. But the way it's gonna, the way things have kind of developed, it does leave a kind of sour taste in Newcastle, in the fans of Newcastle's mouths, if that's even a way of saying it. Newcastle have had a disastrous window, a lot of players rejecting them. That doesn't help either. I think that also sparked Isak to hand in that transfer request or, really push for that move. But, yeah. I mean, how would you have felt if they signed Sesko or Vissa, he stays at the club, and then they sign, I don't know, 3-4 other players? Because I still think they need arguably 5 players to kind of really bulk up that squad. Their starting 11 is still very competitive, but they need a striker now to replace Isak, and they need quality additions to reinforce that midfield and defensive line. Obviously, Chow is a decent signing from AC Milan. Will Salah drop in price if he blanks tonight? It really depends. I don't think so. And surely people aren't going to sell him before Newcastle away, where he did so well last season. And even Arsenal at home, Salah's done very well against them in the past, albeit not a few months ago in that meaningless game, the 2-2 draw. Do you think Forest will struggle now that they're in European competitions? Yes. Now, I think they'll go strong in Europa League. It goes without saying. But originally, of course, they were supposed to be in the Europa Conference League. Let's not talk too much about it for the sake of Crystal Palace and Forest fans. But I think if they were in the Conference League, they would have been able to rotate more in that competition and then prioritise the Premier League. In the Europa, I don't think they can do that so much. They've got a thin squad as well. But I think they will struggle anyway. With Elanga leaving, he was so important to how they played last season. They're struggling to score goals. And Nuno came out and said in the press conference today that he is very concerned about Forest and they're way off where he wants them to be. But I still think defensively they offer great value with Murillo, Milenkovic, Sells, etc. Even Aina's a good option as well. Isak and Newcastle's relationship, like someone broke up with their ex with a disaster end. Well, yes, it's not amicable. Let's put it that way. And we all thought it would be. A lot of Newcastle fans would have accepted, I think, Isak leaving after doing what he did last season. But the way he's gone about it is the problem. Adam G puts his squad as well. What do you think? I really like the look of it. There's not really too many complaints from me. With the goalkeepers, I'm not a big fan of Verbruggen as your main choice, but I think Dubravka rotates quite well with him. Yeah, you've got Guillou on your bench, so you're going to be starting either a back four or your... sorry. War break. Bomba Club. Okay, yeah, so starting all your 5 midfielders and then Haaland and Pedro up front, or you're going to go for 4 defenders there, which would be Aït-Nouri, Borro, Murillo, and probably the Kuiper more often than not. But yeah, I don't like Brighton's fixtures too much in the long term. I think Goodmanson's a decent 5th defender. And then, yeah, the goalkeepers is my only kind of major criticism of the squad. As for your attacking line, it's looking really solid. I mean, there's no Salah, but you've got Palmer, Bruno, you've got a Liverpool attacking Gakpo, and you've got Erling Haaland and Pedro. So I do like the look of it, but just some concerns about your defensive line, in my opinion. Last year, the religious team nearly beat my main team. If I decide to go risky in Gameweek 31, please stop me. 16k to 66. A guy behind me in 31 finished 5k. I get that. You know, if you were doing so well, then decide to take a risk and go backwards, you naturally think, okay, next time I won't do that. But every season is different, and every situation also requires a different approach. So I don't think that was maybe the wrong thing to do. You might have had a bit of bad luck or some swings going against you there. So yeah, sometimes playing safe is the way to go, but not always, to be fair. Is Pape Matar position in Spurs secured over the long run? I don't think so, especially if they sign Savio and Eze. They are linked to multiple attackers, and I think Sal would be on the bench as a result. I think Isak wants more increased salary. Yeah, so the reports indicate that Isak was prepared to sign a contract last summer, but yeah, basically Newcastle didn't offer it at the time, and that was a massive mistake, it looks like, in hindsight. But that's what the reports say. I think one of Ornstein or Romano reported that. It might have been Ornstein, but don't quote me on that. It's an interesting situation, of course. Hopefully there is a resolution soon, but I do think he'll join Liverpool either this summer or the next. Thank you everyone for joining. It has been a blast talking to you for the past 3 hours and a half, almost. No wonder my voice is cracking like a mofo. If you haven't already, like this video, subscribe to my channel, and also hit that notification bell so you're always up to date with my content, whether it's for FPL or UCL Fantasy. The game launched yesterday, and I will be making videos for the Champions League very soon. You can also find me on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, Dylan RCM. It's also possible to find me by typing FPL Dylan. There's my Discord server, the FPL League, Spotify, and much more in the description. That includes my FPL Challenge League as well. I'll see you very soon, hopefully for a reaction stream this weekend. That's going to be the plan. I'll go for a few last questions. I know my face isn't on this screen. That is on purpose, I guess. Enjoy your weekend, Dylan. Thank you, Harrison James. Peace as well, Moman, and good luck for the season. What is a religious team? That's a great question, Lewis. I'm sure Twister Parky will answer very shortly, but some of those players, I guess, have religious names? Maybe I've completely misunderstood it myself. How are Newcastle not affording to increase Isak's salary? Yeah, it is weird, right? Their owners are the richest in world football. Like, I think the Saudi state that fund them have like 10 times the amount that Man City do. So it's ridiculous money, but yeah, I'm not so sure. There's a lot of dodgy things going on, I think, but yeah, that might be best left for another day. Newcastle should have given Isak the promised contract in March 2024. No wonder the trust has been shattered. Isak played the whole of last season without that contract. It was time to leave. Yeah, from that perspective, I can understand it, and it's also a great time for him to leave after securing the Champions League and a trophy for the first time in 70 years. Fulkrug against Chelsea or Rangers Tottenham? That's a close one. I'm going to say Rangers at the moment. Maybe I'm a bit biased since I've got Rangers myself in the 11. Cheers, Bull Terrier. 28th of August, UEFA Champions League draw. Yes, what I'll probably do is a preliminary draft, because we don't know the fixtures yet, for UCL Fantasy, covering some prices and discussing my initial thoughts of the game. And afterwards, we'll start building towards, official, an actual first draft with fixtures in mind, and then talking about the best assets. And if you want to see different types of content for UCL Fantasy this season, then let me know. Predicted lineups will be very tough to make with so many teams featuring, but maybe that'll be something new for the Champions League this season. And every single match day, I'll be doing deadline streams, team selections, best wildcard and limitless squads, and when necessary, it'll just be a best squad combining the wildcard and limitless into one. If those chips are still a thing, which I believe they are, it looks like UCL Fantasy is quite similar this time round, and there's so much content I've made over the years for that game. Why does Challenge have Strand Larsen as a new player? That is a good point. I think you might be right. Let's go back to it and show you before we wrap up. So yeah, they've got Kepa, Keller, Dubravka, Travers. That's fine. Kirkes, Aitnuri, Debo, Twanzebe, Coyote, Danso, Walker, Mosquera, Mbuma, Cunha. Yeah, okay, that's all looking good. Strand Larsen, new player. That is a great find. Maybe we should get him in. That's a great spot there, Twisted Parky. Imagine someone brings him in the team after clicking that button, and then Strand Larsen scores but doesn't get double points. Well, at least he scored, I guess, but yeah, that'd be a bit funny. Have a good rest, and thanks for all the comments. Thank you, one for all. Oh yeah, to be fair, I think that is true. Yeah, I think he was on loan. Jeez, look at me getting excited and stuff like that. Was it a loan? I think you are right. I mean, surely they're not going to get something wrong like that, are they? Yeah, it was a loan. It was a loan. So yeah, people probably said it in the live chat anyway. I was getting excited. Sorry. Rogers Welbeck. Is that it? Oh, I'm not sure what that is, but Welbeck, I guess. Take it easy, buddy. Best of luck. I have Saka captain. I hope he absolutely smashes it, and Arsenal get a nice victory on Sunday. It's a rule when names are religious, says Twisted Parky. I started it with my dad because after Haaland went big, I wanted a team without him, and I wanted Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, that is a good idea, something different. I haven't heard anybody else do that. Yeah, exactly that, Harrison James. It's a good thing that Twisted Parky also realised quite early on. Yeah, he was on loan. I forgot about that, to be honest. Time does fly, and there are so many players that are covered in this game as well. But yeah, FPL Challenge all covered. FPL, UCL Fantasy, you name it. Keep your eyes peeled on this channel for all those pieces of content, for the live streams and videos. I'll see you very soon. Next up is probably a reaction stream, either tomorrow or on Sunday. Take care, enjoy the football, and all the best for Game Week 1 and the new season.